This world is defined by the legendary festival of the descending gods. Citizens celebrate the sacred day the deities descend to Earth, granting divine blessings to those celebrating their birthdays. These gifts grant incredible powers for combat, commerce, or legendary craftsmanship. In the quiet town of Arcel, a boy named Gio struggles to drag the sleepy Sena out of her bed. Gio's heart races as he reminds her that today is finally the festival of the descending gods. He urges Sena to hurry so they don't miss the sunrise prayer, but she responds with her usual spoiled attitude. Despite her whining, she eventually gets ready, though Gio worries she's still too immature for the adulthood their gifts represent. These 15-year-old siblings share a father but have different mothers, having lived together since their adventurer father passed away. With many family mysteries still unsolved, the duo sets out into the bustling town streets. As they walk, Gio's mind swirls with anxiety over what power the gods might bestow upon him. He desperately hopes for a skill that will allow him to follow in his father's footsteps as a legendary adventurer. While he speaks of glory, he harbors secret motives he's not yet ready to share. Sena mocks his obsession but remains his biggest fan, certain that he's destined for an elite-tier gift. They trade playful banter until they reach the town square, joining the massive crowd already deep in prayer. As the sun crests the horizon, Gio begs the heavens for a gift worthy of an adventurer just as the divine energy begins to manifest. A blinding flash erupts across the skyline, showering the faithful in a rain of shimmering celestial light. Kneeling in awe, Gio feels a chilling presence as a divine figure emerges from the light to grant him a unique blessing. Gio snaps back to reality, only to find Sena hovering over him, desperate to know what he received. Sena reveals her own gift, the favor of the sword god, a title so grand it leaves Gio stunned and skeptical. Realizing her gift is an ultra-rare combat skill, Gio's excitement peaks, until Sena leans in so close he thinks she's going for a kiss. Sena presses Gio about his new gift, sending a wave of anxiety through him. With a face flushed with embarrassment, Gio reveals his divine blessing, Home Garden. An awkward silence follows as the group repeats the name, while Sena desperately fights back a smirk. Annie loses it and bursts into laughter, earning a sharp scolding from Sifa for mocking a literal blessing from the gods. While Gio withers under the mockery, Sifa offers a glimmer of hope, reminding him that a gift's true value lies in how it is wielded. Gio explains that Sifa and Annie are his seasoned childhood friends, both already established in the world of adventuring. Annie possesses Hunter's Nose, while the prodigy Sifa wields the rare Empress's authority, a power that commands respect despite her young age. Deep down, Gio's sole motivation for becoming an adventurer was to stand by Sifa's side. Sena picks up on the vibe and teases him, pointing out that his weak gift means he will never keep up with her. Gio is mortified that his secret crush has been exposed, but the tension shifts when Sifa asks about Sena's own gift. Upon hearing favor of the sword god, Sifa is stunned, recognizing the legendary potential radiating from such a title. Seeing her raw talent, Sifa immediately invites Sena to join their elite adventuring party. With a vacancy in this group, Sena is stunned by the offer, while Gio realizes this is her chance to reach the heights he only dreamed of. Though Sena hesitates to leave Gio behind, he pushes her to accept, urging her to forge her own destiny. Gio admits he can barely support himself with his lackluster gift and refuses to be a burden on her future. Fueled by his encouragement, Sena's resolve hardens and she officially commits to the life of an adventurer. She declares her ambition to strike it rich and retire early, waving an energetic goodbye while leaving a stunned Gio in the dust. Watching them depart, Gio is crushed by the reality of being left behind with a gift that feels completely worthless. He stares at his derelict backyard, assuming his gift is literal, until a mysterious system prompt asks him to designate a garden. Before he can react, a section of the earth beneath him begins to radiate a blinding ethereal light. A mysterious voice echoes in his mind, asking if he wishes to designate a garden plot. Though baffled by the bizarre situation, Gio accepts, still grappling with the mechanics of his new gift. Instantly, the ground beneath his feet begins a violent transformation. The earth shifts into a perfectly cultivated garden with rich, fertile soil, leaving Gio stunned by the sheer power of his ability. A magical interface flickers to life, revealing that his home garden is currently at level 1. It lists various crops like wheat, potatoes, and tomatoes, giving him total control over his new agricultural empire. Eager to test his limits, Gio selects potatoes, only to watch in awe as the soil begins tilling itself. He realizes he doesn't need seeds or physical labor. The gift handles every single detail automatically. Overwhelmed by the convenience, he begins planting a variety of crops, carefully managing the available space in his new field. Despite the UI, Gio remains skeptical since the field hasn't changed visually yet, deciding to check back later. Just 1 hour later, he returns to find his backyard completely overhauled into a lush, vibrant paradise. He stands frozen, shocked by the impossible speed and efficiency of his divine gift. Crops that should take months to grow are already ripe, and the gift even seems to read his very thoughts. The moment Gio confirms the harvest, the vegetables literally rip themselves from the earth and fly toward him. They pile up at his feet in a mountain of produce, all without him lifting a single finger. High-quality baskets materialize out of thin air, perfectly catching the magically harvested crops. Gio reels at the insanity of it all. The instant soil prep, the lightning-fast growth, and the mysterious level-up system. From the planting to the storage, every part of the process is fully automated and flawlessly executed. He is absolutely floored by how practical and overpowered this gift truly is. Without even getting his hands dirty, he inspects a fresh tomato, finding it looks perfectly ripe and delicious. Gio samples a tomato from his garden and is stunned by the sudden explosion of flavor. It tastes remarkably like a fruit, boasting firm pulp and a perfect balance of sweetness and acidity. Gio's excitement peaks as he realizes his entire harvest must be incredible, despite their average ranking. Elsewhere, Senna and the girls reach a new destination and are immediately awestruck by the view. Stepping into the open fields for the first time, Senna marvels at the world while the group discusses the hidden dangers of nearby dungeons. Suddenly, Annie's instincts flare as she detects a monster lurking in the shadows. A goblin leaps from the brush, but Annie recognizes it as the perfect warm-up for a novice adventurer. Sina lunges forward with such blinding speed that her companions can barely track her blade. Flashing a confident smirk, Sina declares she can take this beast down entirely on her own. Ignoring the warnings about the dangers of solo combat, she charges ahead, certain of her victory. The battle reaches its climax. The goblin hurls a jagged stone directly at her as a desperate projectile. But with godlike reflexes, she effortlessly parries the attack, leaving her friends speechless. Seizing the opening, Sina delivers a devastating strike that puts the monster down for good. Sifa and Annie stand frozen, paralyzed by the sheer display of skill they just witnessed. Senna erupts in celebration, thrilled to have secured her very first solo kill. The duo watches in awe, reflecting on her fearless courage and her mastery over the blade. It's clear to them now, Sina possesses a level of talent that defies all expectations. Later that evening, a jubilant Senna finally makes her way back home. She regales Gio with tales of her conquest while he prepares a celebratory feast for his warrior sister. Gio worries about Seina's quick return, but she dismisses his concerns, claiming the sword felt natural in her hands. Watching her, a pang of envy hits Gio as he witnesses his sister's raw talent. As a reward for her first successful mission, he serves a special stew crafted from his magical garden's harvest. Sina's eyes light up at the sight of the vibrant, aromatic dish. The moment she tastes it, Sina is floored by the explosion of flavor. Gio watches her reaction with a sense of triumph, proud of the feast his magical garden provided. Sina is utterly impressed, claiming the vegetables possess a quality that far exceeds anything she's ever tasted. Gio takes a bite and is stunned to find the flavor has evolved into something legendary. Together, they celebrate the miraculous harvest from his enchanted plot. Sina can't stop the praise, declaring she's never encountered such perfect produce in her entire life. Seeing his sister so happy confirms his suspicion. The vegetables from his garden are on a completely different level. They savor the meal together, basked in pure culinary bliss. Craving more, Sina realizes she's already emptied the pot and demands to know where he bought such ingredients. Gio, brimming with excitement, offers to reveal the secret behind his mysterious gift. He leads Sina to this backyard to unveil the lush, magical garden he cultivated with his unique ability. She's stunned to learn the feast grew right there, and Gio explains this means they'll never go hungry or broke again. Sina is ecstatic at the prospect of a lifetime of gourmet meals. Gio admits he once envied those with flashy, adventure-focused abilities, but now he realizes his home garden is a powerhouse in its own right. While Sina is already dreaming of her next meal, Gio jokes about her bottomless appetite. Suddenly, Gio notices a glowing stone fall from Sina's belongings. Sina explains it's a magic stone from her quest, just as a mysterious system prompt asks Gio if he wants to use it. Intrigued by the possibilities, Gio asks if he can keep the stone, and a curious Sina grants his request. He offers the stone to the garden, and a notification confirms the item has been consumed. Gio tells Sina to wait, his heart racing to see what happens next. Gio watches with bated breath as the soil reacts to the infusion of pure magic. He's completely blindsided when he sees actual slabs of meat sprouting among the leaves. His jaw drops as he realizes his garden can now produce high-quality protein alongside his vegetables. Gio marvels at the sheer absurdity of his gift, realizing his home garden is far more broken than he ever imagined. After witnessing a tree literally grow fresh meat, he's left wondering just how far this god-tier power can truly go. Sina battles at the dungeon entrance, confronting a swarm of monsters and a massive predatory bat. She crushes them all, but the endless waves of enemies begin to drain her stamina. As Sina delves deeper into the dungeon, her elite skills provide her friends a sense of absolute security in this death trap. Discovering a rare magic stone, she claims it as a gift for her brother, Gio. Sifa takes notice and inquires about him, noting that Gio hasn't been the same since the festival. Sina admits her concern. Gio dreamed of being an adventurer but received a seemingly lackluster gift. Still, she praises his resilience and hard work at home. She firmly believes that with his true potential, he could even conquer the entire world. Sifa and Annie are left stunned by her unwavering confidence in him. Gio is caught off guard when Sifa and Annie announce their visit. Panic sets in as he realizes he needs to scrub the entire house top to bottom. Desperate to impress Sifa after so long, he racks his brain for ways to make her visit unforgettable. Insecurity gnaws at him as he fears disappointing her. Sifa remains an enigma with her stoic expression, a sharp contrast to the bubbly Annie. Suddenly, Sina bursts in with a high-energy greeting. Gio's jaw drops when Sina reveals that she and Annie are dying to see his garden. He realizes that since his produce is legendary, a tour of the harvest is the perfect way to win Sifa over. Knowing how much Sina loves a good meal, he's certain Sifa will appreciate the fresh crops. Gio immediately begins prepping the garden to ensure it looks flawless for his guests. Gio surveys his plot, realizing that trees heavy with hanging meat make this anything but an ordinary garden. Just then, Sina arrives to hand over the magic stones. He thanks her, realizing he's on the verge of a massive upgrade. His garden is already level 2 and teetering on the edge of another evolution. With the ability to cultivate meat unlocked, Gio uses the stones to push the garden even further. Every level up expands the land and unlocks even more exotic crops. Sina watches in awe as Gio consumes the stones, the gems vanishing into the earth to fuel the transformation. Gio erupts in celebration as the garden successfully reaches level 3. The expansion is massive, granting him more space and the ability to grow brand new legendary vegetables. Gio's curiosity peaks as he discovers exotic plant names, and since Senna doesn't recognize them either, the duo realizes the garden's potential is limitless. Fueled by excitement, Gio and Senna dive headfirst into the planting process. In no time, a variety of mysterious vegetables sprout from the earth, leaving Senna stunned by the sheer scale of the expansion. The pair harvests a batch of vibrant purple sweet potatoes, mesmerized by their unusual striking color. After cooking them up, they're blown away by the flavor, with Senna practically glowing with joy as she devours the meal. Though they have the hearty texture of a standard potato, the flavor is shockingly sweet, catching them both off guard. Sina declares them the perfect snack, while Gio envisions a future of gourmet desserts, realizing his magic stones can push his gift to god-tier levels. With a brand new skill unlocked, his garden continues its rapid mystical evolution. Finally, the day of the big visit arrives as Sifa shows up at the door, offering a polite apology for the intrusion. A flustered Gio assures her she's always welcome, while an ecstatic Senna ushers her inside with open arms. Gio is visibly shaken by Sifa's presence, prompting Senna to pout and joke about being completely ignored in her own home. Sifa explains that Senna's constant praising, claiming the garden could literally conquer the world, is what drove her to see it for herself. She enters with heavy skepticism, unable to believe a home garden gift could be anything more than mediocre. However, the moment she and Annie step into the backyard, their jaws drop at the sight of a massive otherworldly oasis. They wander through the lush greenery, stunned by the oversized fruits, vegetables, and mushrooms that seem to defy nature itself. The once dilapidated backyard has been completely transformed, now featuring a masterfully crafted fence. Gio confirms the impossible truth. Every single detail is a direct result of his special gift. He reveals that he even constructed the perimeter fence in record time, leaving the visitors speechless. Annie notes that many of these species shouldn't even exist in this climate, proving the garden transcends the laws of the seasons. She admits her initial doubt was a massive mistake, now fully captivated by the miracle Gio has created. Gio notices that Annie, his former skeptic, is now paralyzed with shock. He wonders if Sifa is bored or disappointed, given her usual stoic expression. Battling his nerves, he finally asks Sifa for her honest thoughts on the garden. To his surprise, Sifa reveals she was simply stunned by the spectacle, proving her silence was actually rooted in concern for him. When the girls ask for a taste of the fresh produce, Gio's excitement peaks, eager for the chance to finally impress them. Gio then reveals his most bizarre masterpiece, the meat tree. The girls stare in absolute disbelief, convinced they're hallucinating, as the concept of meat growing on branches defies all logic. They struggle to wrap their heads around this biological impossibility, but Gio explains that his gift transcends the laws of nature. He begins the harvest, but as the meat is cut, the pieces start moving autonomously, sending a wave of panic through the group. As Gio gathers the fallen cuts, a basket manifests out of nowhere, and the meat begins leaping into it on its own. This leaves Annie in a state of total bewilderment, realizing that nothing in this garden follows the rules of the real world. Gio presents the prime, fresh cuts to the group. Annie confirms it's the real deal, leaving everyone breathless at the sight. Sifa questions if they should truly eat it, but the hype for a legendary barbecue quickly takes over. Gio worries Sifa might find tree meat repulsive, but she surprises everyone by expressing a genuine interest in trying it. Her response catches them off guard, as she declares her full trust in whatever Gio's gift produces. The team dives into the prep work, with Annie handling the vegetables while the others prepare the meat for the grill. The garden itself assists the feast, as the vegetables move toward the prep area on their own to speed up the process. Soon, the mouth-watering scent of grilling meat begins to waft through the air. The aroma is intoxicating, and while everyone is starving, they remind themselves that the guests must be served first. Sifa reaches for a piece, prompting Gio to warn her about the searing heat. A heavy silence falls over the group as they watch intently, waiting for her very first reaction. Sifa takes a bite of the meat and is instantly blown away by the incredible flavor. Gio and the others watch her eat with delight, thrilled that she actually enjoys it. Gio celebrates his success in finally surprising the stoic Sifa. Overjoyed by her reaction, Gio encourages Annie to dig in as well. Annie takes her first bite. She is stunned by the burst of flavor, noting that the meat is incredibly tender and juicy. It's a culinary experience unlike anything she's ever known. Annie showers the dish with praise, unable to believe this meat literally grew on a tree. Sifa agrees, noting the perfection of the vegetables and mushrooms as Annie continues to feast. Gio then presents his next masterpiece, a freshly prepared sweet potato pie. Annie's eyes light up at the sight of the dessert. Sifa asks if even the potatoes were grown in his garden, and Gio proudly confirms. The group dives into the pie, and the first bite sends their senses into overdrive with its rich, sweet flavor. Sifa and Annie practically melt, claiming it tastes as sweet as pure honey. Having never tasted such a delicacy, the girls beg for more and Gio happily obliges. He whispers to himself that sweets are the ultimate way to a woman's heart, while the praise continues to pour in. Sina boasts about her brother's hidden talents, while Gio basks in the glow of Sifa's heartfelt confirmation that his cooking is truly amazing. They gaze in awe of the garden, now a literal paradise overflowing with meat, vegetables, and desserts. Sifa looks at Gio and praises him, telling him his gift is truly extraordinary before flashing a radiant smile. Gio is moved to his core seeing her smile like that because of his efforts. He's ecstatic to have finally found something she truly loves. Startled when Sifa catches him staring, Gio quickly plays it cool. He offers her more food, insisting she eat her fill, simply wanting her to feel at home. Watching the meat, Gio realizes his unique gift was the key to unlocking Sifa's happiness. He credits his magical garden for this impossible feat. He finally acknowledges the true, overwhelming potential of his power. The feast continues in high spirits. Annie points out that despite the incredible taste, there's no way they can finish all this food alone. She suggests that Gio should sell his massive harvest at her shop since the garden produces way more than he and Sina could ever eat. Gio arrives in town and is stunned to find a massive queue snaking outside the restaurant during the lunch rush. Inside, Annie greets the patrons with boundless energy, ready to serve the next group as the shop's popularity skyrockets. Gio quickly notices the crowd consists entirely of men and immediately realizes the true motive behind the long line. Annie, sporting a provocative outfit and playing up the charm, tries to lure him inside as well. He turns beet red at the invitation while a voice from the back scolds him for falling for her obvious charms. Gio is shocked to find a rival restaurant has opened right across the street. He tries to justify his curiosity, but the sheer volume of customers there leaves him reeling. Gio steps into Annie's family establishment, Lucas, only to find the dining hall eerily silent and empty. He reminisces about the restaurant's glory days when it was packed with people, but since the rival shop opened, the atmosphere has become depressingly desolate. Annie explains that with her parents traveling and her own busy schedule, she left her sister Alicia in charge of the family business. Moments later, Alicia bursts in with high energy, introduced as a brave woman who has dedicated herself to the shop. However, Annie's excitement turns to pure horror the moment she lays eyes on her sister. Alicia is wearing a scandalously revealing outfit in a desperate bid to outdo the competition, leaving Gio speechless and the sisters in total chaos. Annie frantically tugs at her sister's clothes, pointing out a fatal flaw in her seductive strategy. She bluntly states that Alicia is too flat-chested to attract male customers, leaving her sister shell-shocked and Gio stuck in the middle of the drama. Refusing to give up, Alicia produces an even flashier dress and tries to force Annie to wear it instead. She argues that Annie's curves would lure in every man in town, causing Annie to scream in refusal while Gio watches the insanity unfold. Flustered, Annie accuses Gio of imagining her in the dress and reflexively strikes him, much to his confusion. Alicia then reminds her sister that since she's an adventurer now, it's her duty to keep their legacy alive. Annie agrees to help, believing that Gio's legendary cooking skills should be more than enough to win back their customers. However, she admits the current menu is far too basic, and the restaurant's aesthetic desperately needs a makeover. If the situation doesn't change, the restaurant inherited from their parents is doomed to shut down forever. Gio realizes just how much this place means to them, shocked to see even the stoic Alicia drowning in worry. Over dinner, Annie summons her courage and reveals she invited Gio for a specific purpose. But Gio is already one step ahead, revealing he arrived with a plan to save their legacy. He presents a bounty of ingredients from his own garden, leaving the sisters stunned by the vibrant, high-quality selection. They've never seen produce this fresh, including exotic plants that defy everything they know about farming. However, the real showstopper is the reveal of his most precious crop, pure white rice. Alicia is breathless, noting that rice is an incredibly rare luxury in this region that's almost impossible to find. This grain is far superior to the dull rice sold at the markets, yet Gio casually claims he just grew it normally. Alicia's mind is blown, especially since he's somehow harvesting meat from trees, but Gio insists it's just a simple home garden. Alicia warns her sister against using seduction to save the shop, but she's finally ready to put Gio's legendary ingredients to the test. She begins prepping with surgical precision, reminding everyone why she's the undisputed master of the Lucas restaurant. While rice is notoriously difficult to cook, Annie discovers an old manual in their father's room that holds the secret to the perfect bowl. The instructions read like a cryptic curse, but they soon realize it's a complex guide to mastering the heat. The first batch is a soggy mess and the third is burnt to a crisp, but Gio provides an endless supply for their trial and error. The trio watches the pot with bated breath, waiting for the exact moment to lift the lid and reveal the results. As the steam clears, a heavenly aroma fills the air. They've finally achieved culinary perfection. Gio strides through the streets with absolute confidence, knowing their new menu is about to change everything. A massive crowd has already gathered outside, with hungry customers buzzing about the legendary food and the beautiful sisters. Drawn in by the irresistible scent, a young traveler enters to find Alicia waiting with a confident smile and a stunning new look. Alicia makes her entrance, clipboard in hand, as she unveils the new menu. The men in line are instantly captivated by her undeniable grace and beauty. Annie joins her, trading her usual attire for a more modest, traditional look. She explains she wants to complement her sister's style, and her presence sends the crowd's excitement into overdrive. Driven to a frenzy, the customers press forward, desperate to know if they can finally order. Alicia greets them with a radiant smile and gives the green light. Within moments, the restaurant is packed to capacity. Gio emerges from the kitchen, delivering signature dishes that leave the patrons stunned by their masterful presentation. The spread is a culinary masterpiece. Hearty vegetable soup, crisp potato salad, and beef rolls stuffed with burdock and shiso, all served alongside steaming rice. One customer stares in disbelief at the rice, a delicacy he's never encountered before. Others whisper about how rare it is to find such high-tier ingredients in a common eatery. The moment they take a bite, their minds are blown. The flavor profile is unlike anything they've experienced, with the rice stealing the entire show. They marvel at the texture, describing it as incredibly soft and impossibly fluffy. Gio watches with quiet satisfaction, knowing his premium ingredients and the sisters' hard work have paid off. The diners are obsessed, noting how the rice grows sweeter with every single chew. They rave about the refreshing kick of the shiso and the satisfying crunch of the burdock. Ultimately, they conclude that the harmony between the side dishes and the rice elevates the entire meal to a god-tier level. The customers are officially addicted, unable to stop shoveling food into their mouths. One man even screams that he wants to eat this for the rest of eternity. As the plates are wiped clean, a wave of despair hits when they realize the rice is gone. Gio beams as he hears a patron claim this is the greatest meal of his life. But just as they begin to mourn their empty bowls, the waitress reappears, carrying a fresh mountain of food. She announces the words every hungry soul dreams of: it's all you can eat. The restaurant erupts in pure shock and joy. The idea of unlimited top-tier food sends the crowd into a state of absolute euphoria. While the cheers echo inside, the line outside stretches further down the street. Seeing the chaos of happiness, even more passers-by decide they have to get a taste. The interior is a beautiful scene of chaos, packed with satisfied diners praising every bite. The staff works at breakneck speed as a never-ending stream of new faces begs for a table. Alicia continues to serve with a tireless smile, clearly thriving in the high-energy environment of their successful opening. Gio dives into the fray, taking orders as the frenzy reaches its peak. Everyone is left wondering one thing. Where on earth did they find such legendary ingredients? Gio offers his thanks, but his expression suddenly shifts to one of dead seriousness. He senses something is off and asks if she's all right, but she quickly masks her thoughts and claims it's nothing. A customer remarks that while the rival shop has pretty girls, their food is trash. Lucas's restaurant, however, is a total game changer, and he vows to become a regular. Gio doubles down on the praise, calling the owner absolutely incredible. Hearing this, Annie beams with pure, unadulterated joy. Once the doors finally close for the night, Annie turns to Gio with a radiant smile, admitting she hasn't seen the place this busy in a very long time. She insists on paying for the premium ingredients and offering a reward, but Gio brushes it off, claiming he's just happy to help. Annie refuses to take advantage of their friendship, demanding to pay double because the quality of his produce is simply god-tier. Gio insists on the regular price for now, telling her they can talk profits once the business is booming. His selflessness leaves Annie visibly moved and deeply impressed. As Gio reflects on how charming older women can be, Annie catches him off guard by leaning in and asking what he truly thinks of them. Before he can even process the question, she closes the distance and asks if he'd ever date her, leaving the poor boy utterly paralyzed. Gio stands there, brain short-circuiting, until the door suddenly slams open. A girl bursts in, shouting for Annie to stop teasing the poor guy. She scolds Annie, arguing that Gio is far too innocent and trusting for these kinds of cruel mind games. Annie just laughs it off with a playful smirk. Gio tries to play it cool, convincing himself she was just joking, even though his heart is still racing. Annie leans in and whispers a warning into the girl's ear. If she doesn't start paying attention, she really will steal Gio for herself. The girl tries to hide her shock, acting like she couldn't care less what Annie does. Annie just chuckles and heads off to prepare for the next day. Alicia heads out with a fire in her eyes, determined to give her absolute best for the sake of the restaurant. Gio is glad to see her doing so well, remembering how she used to act purely on reckless impulse. Meanwhile, a mysterious observer notices the restaurant's sudden explosive popularity. Gio thinks Alicia is just being dramatic, but she grabs him, warning him to keep his godlike gift a total secret. She explains that his rare skill makes him a prime target for kidnapping and forced labor. To him, it's just a garden, but to the rest of the world, it's a dangerous treasure. It finally clicks for Gio. Alicia wasn't being difficult earlier. She was desperately trying to protect him from the shadows. Gio asks if she was genuinely worried about him, sending Alicia into a blushing frenzy. She desperately tries to justify herself, claiming his absence would simply be an inconvenience for the restaurant. Gio plays along but knows she's right. He reaffirms his trust in her and the crew, vowing to be far more selective about who learns his secret. Gio modestly claims he didn't do much for his sister, but Alicia shuts him down, insisting he was the one who saved the day. He tries to brush it off as a natural duty between childhood friends. Alicia falls silent for a moment before muttering that he's just a kind-hearted idiot, leaving a bewildered Gio demanding to know what she just said. As she drifts down the moonlit street, Alicia turns back with a radiant, sincere smile and shouts a final thank you to Gio. He watches her in silence, completely blindsided by the unexpected gesture. Gio stands frozen, his mind reeling from the weight of her gratitude, recalling all the times she was annoyed or suspicious of him. A small smile creeps onto his face, finding this rare, gentler side of her strangely charming. He never imagined this day would come when he'd hear such heartfelt words from her. Back at the restaurant, the atmosphere is electric and the tables are packed with satisfied customers. Alicia glides through the crowd with a bright smile, feeling a surge of pride as she watches the joy their food brings to everyone. Meanwhile, Gio wanders through the streets, his mind heavy with the warning he received. He realizes his unique gift could become a target for exploitation if he isn't careful. Elsewhere, a mysterious figure emerges clutching a heavy bag with a sinister grin, boasting about the massive deals they secured that day. The front of Lucas's restaurant is a total madhouse, with a massive line of customers stretching down the block. In stark contrast, the rival shop across the street is a ghost town. A girl watching the spectacle notes that the other place used to be the popular one. Sensing a hidden secret behind Lucas's meteoric success, she becomes fired up, determined to uncover exactly what's happening behind the scenes. Later, Gio calls his sister's attention to something bizarre happening in the garden. When she arrives, he shows her the vegetables, which have been gnawed on once again. His sister is furious, noting this has happened before, while Gio explains that a flock of nuisance crows has been terrorizing their crops lately. She asks if Gio wants her to eliminate the pests, confidently unsheathing her blade. Gio is taken aback by her lethal solution, but she assures him it would be child's play. He muses that for a seasoned adventurer, a few crows are hardly a challenge. Gio finds it suspicious that the crows vanish whenever Sina is around, yet they swarm him in massive flocks the moment he's alone. Sina teases that the birds are clearly terrified of her, jokingly asking if they simply don't respect him. Gio snaps at her to shut up, and after a quick banter about her being a lazy guardian, she sets off on her next adventure. Gio realizes a simple fence won't stop the birds forever, but thanks to Sina, the crows have been driven off, for now. He gathers his hard-earned magic stones, confident he finally possesses enough to transcend his current limits. Upon consuming them, a notification confirms his breakthrough. He has finally reached level 10. This milestone unlocks a powerful new ability to expand his garden. But before he can test it, an interruption occurs. Someone calls out to him from the distance, forcing Gio to put his new features on hold as he turns to face the stranger. A high-energy girl bursts onto the scene, introducing herself as the merchant, Liru Kaliria. Gio is stunned by her diminutive size, wondering if she's actually a puppet given her tiny stature. When he asks what she wants, she responds with an overwhelming wave of excitement. Liru reveals she's a fan of the legendary food at Lucas's restaurant, and Gio can't help but feel a surge of pride. However, her true motive was uncovering the secret source of those world-class ingredients. Gio is horrified to learn she's been tailing him this entire time just to find his hidden location. Liru is shocked that such high-tier produce comes from such a humble home, while a nervous Gio tries to maintain his composure. Her gaze sharpens as she points out that such quality can only be the result of a rare special gift. Gio remembers a grim warning to keep his powers hidden from exploiters, causing him to freeze in sheer panic. Suddenly, Liru bursts into laughter, admitting she was just testing him, though Gio still finds her incredibly suspicious. After tasting one of his apples, her eyes light up, and she demands they form a business partnership immediately. She proposes taking his business to the next level by acting as his intermediary for shops everywhere. Sensing his hesitation, she reassures him that her kind, the poppets, are known for their absolute integrity. Recalling their reputation for being brilliant and honest, Gio listens as she offers to sign a binding magic contract. This contract would guarantee total secrecy, proving she's serious about a safe and professional alliance. Liru Kaliria presents a magic contract, a binding promise to keep Gio's divine gift a total secret. She urges him to sign so they can discuss the details, leaving Gio to weigh the gravity of the proposal. Gio recalls the pure joy on Sifa's face, and the satisfaction of his customers eating his garden-fresh ingredients. He envisions sharing that joy with the world, realizing a professional merchant like Liru is the perfect partner to navigate the complex business world. Casting his doubts aside, Gio takes the magic-imbued pen and signs the document, sealing their fate. An ecstatic Liru Kaliria beams with excitement, thanking him energetically for his unwavering trust. With the deal finalized, an eager Gio offers to show her his garden as the magic contract glows to confirm their agreement. Gio activates his skill, revealing a bizarre tree dripping with fresh meat and crops that fully mature in just 1 hour. He proudly displays a massive mountain of fresh, high-quality vegetables. He admits he thought his gift was simple, while Liru stands frozen, unable to process this reality-bending power. Liru mutters about how absurd the gift is, quickly masking her shock when Gio catches her whispering. Gio remains suspicious for a moment, sensing that her reaction was far deeper than simple surprise. He watches her manic laughter about the potential profits, wondering if she's far more calculating or even shadier than she appears. Liru's jaw drops once more as Gio drops another massive bombshell. He reveals he can now grow fish, sending her into a panicked, disbelieving scream. She tries to rationalize it, assuming they grow on trees like the meat, but Gio's correction only confuses her further. He explains they sprout from the earth like mushrooms, and suddenly, fish pop out of the dirt with a bloop, leaving her speechless. Liru notes how rare fresh fish is in her region, while Gio admits he hasn't grown many since he lacks the skills to cook them. To celebrate their new alliance, she suggests they cook and feast together. As they prepare the mackerel, Gio utilizes the seafood handling skills he mastered during his previous trades. He carves the fish with surgical precision, leaving the girl stunned by the sheer quality and freshness of the fillets. As she begins to cook, Gio marvels at Liru Kaliria's vast knowledge, which she attributes to her life as a seasoned traveler. Gio admits he once dreamt of being a legendary adventurer, but fears his home garden gift is better suited for farming than fighting. The cooking concludes as she enthusiastically declares that the feast is finally served. Gio gazes at the table in awe, mesmerized by the steaming, mouth-watering spread before him. He dives in immediately, tasting the meuniere and finding it leagues above the tough, dried fish he's used to. The flavors are light yet powerful, prompting Gio to ask for Liru's thoughts, only to see her trembling with anticipation. Liru suddenly explodes in a frenzy of delight, screaming about the incredible umami while devouring the dish. She's practically melting from the deliciousness of the aqua pazza, leaving Gio absolutely stunned by her wild reaction. Realizing she just screamed her lungs out, Liru instantly freezes, flushed with pure embarrassment. She bows frantically in apology, explaining that her natural accent slipped out in her excitement. Gio can't help but laugh, reassuring her that there's no need to worry since the food was genuinely world-class. They trade sincere compliments, with Gio praising her skills and Liru crediting his god-tier ingredients. Eventually, the two fall into a comfortable silence, neither knowing who deserves more credit. Laughter breaks the tension as Liru notes that mutual benefit is the core of any great business deal. Gio sets his sights on scaling up production, while Laruka, insisting he drop the formalities, warns him about the limits of his land. He realizes that to truly expand his empire, he's going to need significantly more space. He explains his rapid harvest speed, but their conversation is cut short by a sudden, ominous swarm of crows. Liruka realizes these scavengers are after their precious fish, a fact Gio confirms with a serious gaze. Without missing a beat, he grabs his shovel and prepares for battle, ready to show off his latent adventurer skills. Shovel in hand, Gio charges at the crows, certain he can drive the scavengers away. However, his first swing is a total whiff, sending the shovel flying while a stunned Laruka watches the disaster unfold. Gio desperately swings at the air, but the crows remain unfazed, mocking his feeble attempts as Laruka realizes they don't see the boy as a threat. The birds plunder the fish, leaving Gio battered and frustrated, though he manages to salvage a few scraps. Laruka suggests giving up the fish farm to avoid the danger, yet she's secretly moved by his relentless effort. Suddenly, Gio remembers the powerful new skill he unlocked earlier that day. He summons his garden menu and activates Guardian Creation, confidently giving the system the green light to proceed. As a bewildered Laruka looks on, the earth begins to tremble violently. The ground ruptures as a massive golem of stone and moss towers over them, leaving both Gio and Laruka paralyzed with shock. Gio questions if this behemoth will truly protect his land, and the creature responds with a thunderous, resounding chest pound. Without wasting a second, Gio points toward the crows and commands his new sentinel to drive them out. A stunned Laruka demands to know what's happening, and Gio simply explains that this is another facet of his divine gift. The golem lumbers forward, its massive presence sending the first wave of birds into a total panic. But these aren't ordinary crows. They swarm the golem, launching a desperate and aggressive counteroffensive. Gio watches in awe as the Guardian begins to glow with a mysterious light, tanking every hit without taking a single scratch. The Guardian enters a powerful spin, creating a whirlwind that scatters the remaining crows with effortless strength. Gio erupts in cheers as the golem successfully clears the skies and finishes the job. He praises his new ally, but Laruka grows pensive, realizing how terrifying this power would be in the hands of someone with dark intentions. Thrilled with the results, Gio declares he can finally expand his fish farm without fear, earning a slight smile from Laruka. She accepts the new reality with a sigh of relief as the golem takes its place as the garden's eternal protector. With Laruka heading off on business for a few days, Gio's peaceful life returns to normal under the watchful eye of his stone guardian. Laruka returns beaming with excitement, eager to drop a bombshell. She reveals she's purchased the land behind Gio's house and gifts it to him with a triumphant smile, leaving him completely stunned. Gio reels from the shock, unable to believe she'd hand over such a valuable asset for nothing. As he stammers about being unable to afford it, she insists it's a strategic investment in his future production. Her confident smile radiates trust, leaving Gio deeply moved by her unwavering faith in him. Gio reciprocates the gesture, confirming that the feeling of respect is mutual. They seal the deal with a handshake, both electrified by the potential of their new partnership. With a firm grip, Gio's trust is solidified. But as she mentions demolition, a mysterious glow catches his eye. Gio confirms his plans for a massive garden, and suddenly the fence begins to reconstruct itself. Out of thin air, rows of garden beds manifest, leaving Laruka and the golem absolutely speechless. Gio is hyped for the expansion, while another character frantically schemes to hide a mountain of coins from Sina. A girl arrives on the scene, her jaw dropping at the sight of the massive, crop-filled backyard. While the golem keeps watch, Gio explains that the land transfer has unlocked a massive variety of new cultivation options. The impossible happens as fish sprout from the dirt and literal meat trees begin bearing beef, pork, and chicken. Gio reveals a small army of golems, mentioning he's only utilized a fraction of his 25,000 potential plots. He ponders his next horticultural masterpiece as his golem assistants cheer him on with mechanical enthusiasm. Gio suddenly realizes he now possesses the power to mass-produce rare medicinal herbs. He mentions he can even cultivate AIM, a legendary healing plant, leaving Laruka completely floored. She confirms its rarity, explaining that local pharmacies have completely run dry of the precious ingredient. Gio is stunned to learn that Sifa herself is struggling to raid dungeons because she lacks the necessary potions. Gio realizes healing potions are mandatory for dungeon crawling and concludes that if he can farm them, he'll be a massive asset. He envisions Sifa's joy and gets fired up about producing the missing ingredients. After gathering some herbs, Gio heads toward the potion shop Sina mentioned. He eventually stops before a massive weathered mansion hidden deep within the trees, questioning if he's even in the right place. Nerves kick in as he approaches the shop, which looks more like a haunted ruin than a business. However, seeing the open sign, he gathers his courage and steps inside, wondering what kind of eccentric runs this place. He eases the door open and enters cautiously, announcing his arrival to the silent room. The interior is desolate. As Gio scans the shelves filled with ominous potions, his unease grows, and he nervously notes that the place seems abandoned. Just as he's about to turn back, a figure suddenly manifests behind him with a chilling welcome. Startled, he turns to find a girl in a maid outfit named Dennis. He quickly apologizes for the intrusion, but when he asks if she works there, she reveals she's actually the shop owner's apprentice. Confused by the maid attire, Gio can't help but ask about it, causing Dennis to fumble through a clumsy, embarrassed explanation. Suddenly, a chilling dark presence looms over them, terrifying both Dennis and Gio. It's Marlene, draped in a mysterious outfit and clutching several vials. Dennis explains this is her special uniform, as Marlene fixes her gaze on Gio, noting she's never seen his face around here. Gio stammers through a greeting, secretly thinking she looks like a literal zombie, though he admits her macabre aesthetic fits the shop perfectly. Dennis begs to change back into normal clothes, but Marlene refuses, citing the owner's strict orders. Gio figures the maid outfit is just a desperate marketing tactic to attract customers to this dilapidated dump. He tries to be supportive by saying the outfit looks great, but this only makes Dennis more miserable as he trembles in pure hatred for the clothes. Reaching his breaking point, Dennis screams the truth. He's actually a boy. Gio is left absolutely floored by the revelation. Marlene points a dramatic finger and shuts him down, declaring that he isn't just a boy, he's a femboy, stunning everyone with her bluntness. While Dennis tries to insist on his masculinity, an ecstatic Marlene starts listing off his adorable features, from his big eyes to his chubby cheeks, praising how perfectly he fits the maid aesthetic. She completely melts over his cuteness, leaving a frantic Dennis more bewildered than ever. Marlene pulls Dennis into a suffocating hug, labeling him a natural-born femboy while the poor kid struggles to escape, screaming in total confusion. Watching the chaos unfold, a sweating Gio can only watch in silence, realizing he's dealing with a very peculiar individual. Gio considers retreating after the chaos, but Dennis halts him, demanding he wait. As Gio pauses in embarrassment, Marlene watches from a distance with dramatic intensity. Dennis then inquires about the true purpose of his visit. Awkwardly, Gio reveals a stash of ingredients, explaining he heard their supply for healing potions was depleted. Dennis and Marlene stand stunned at the sight of a massive haul of the legendary plant essential for brewing potions. Dennis identifies the leaf's distinct shape, confirming it is indeed Marlene inspects them closer, marveling at their pristine quality and overwhelming mana. Analyzing the plant, Marlene realizes this rare find is the key to crafting high-tier potions. Thanks to her unique gift, she instantly gauges potion quality. The duo explains that potions range from low to high tier, with superior quality yielding devastatingly powerful effects. Gio stuns them further by handing over an even larger supply of this premium-grade Marlene presses him for the source, but Gio skillfully evades the question. An ecstatic Dennis praises the feat, noting that recent storms made harvesting nearly impossible. Dennis attempts to maintain the flow of conversation, but Marlene's piercing gaze burns into him. He's oblivious to the fact that she's seething with jealousy over his proximity to another. Sensing a shift in her mood, Dennis asks for a favor. Prioritize selling these potions to his sister Sina's team. Hearing the name, Sifa's excitement peaks as she recognizes the group. To seal the deal, Dennis offers to sell the at a significantly discounted price. Marlene remains deathly silent for a long, tense moment. She finally concedes to the request, noting that Sifa's group are loyal regulars. However, she adds a mysterious condition, leading Dennis to believe she wants more rare materials. Suddenly, Marlene points dramatically and screams that she is the only one permitted to love Dennis. The boy in the maid outfit is left reeling, wondering why he's being dragged into her chaotic outburst. As he makes his exit, Dennis wonders if he left Marlene with a terrible first impression. He brushes it off, confident that she can handle the potions and that Sifa will be thrilled. The thought of his sister's gratitude fills him with warmth. Dennis wanders off, chuckling to himself in a daze of happiness, unaware that bystanders are already labeling him as the local weirdo. The scene shifts to a high-tech lab where bubbling flasks and tubes signal that a powerful concoction is underway. One girl discusses the astronomical value of the eam while working. Her companion, dressed as a maid, suggests they should have secured even more goods from the mysterious supplier. The girl watches the potion drip into the bottle, stunned by the sheer quality of the liquid. She realizes this is no ordinary brew and wonders where on earth he sourced such rare materials. As she finishes the preparation, the final result leaves her completely shell-shocked. The blonde girl vibrates with excitement, questioning if the potion's creator is some high-level master. She stares at the intense otherworldly glow radiating from the vial, certain she has just birthed an extraordinary item. Panic sets in as the woman sees the potion glowing like a miniature sun, deciding she must dilute it immediately before it draws too much attention. Meanwhile, outside, a cheerful girl rushes to her brother, flaunting a hoard of healing potions she snagged at a steal. He immediately realizes she must have traded some high-grade medicinal herbs to pull this off. The boy excitedly mentions how happy Sifa seemed, even wondering if a date is on the horizon. The girl remains focused, noting that these supplies will allow them to push deeper into their adventures. When he dismisses her as a rookie, she snaps back in defense of her strength and dungeon prowess. But he simply warns her not to become a burden to Sifa. As they navigate the dark cave, the girl's senses tingle, and she warns the group of a looming threat ahead. They brace themselves as a massive, monstrous bear emerges with a bone-chilling roar. While one member shouts to maintain the formation, the girl stands her ground, dwarfed by the beast's size. She prepares to strike, but her companion lunges first to provide cover. Suddenly, the monster bear senses a shift in the air and hesitates for a split second. Seizing the golden opportunity, the girl charges forward with explosive speed. She lands a devastatingly precise blow, sending the massive beast crashing to the ground, defeated. A heavy sigh of relief escapes her as the team showers her with praise, amazed that she took down such a fierce predator like it was nothing. She credits their success to their powerful gifts, specifically Sena's hunter's nose for tracking, and the Empress's authority, which buffs allies while crippling enemies. Pushing further into the abyss, they marvel at their lightning-fast progression, attributing their incredible luck to the blessing of the sword god. They acknowledge that without these potent healing potions, this journey would be a suicide mission, recognizing Geo as the essential anchor for their dungeon crawl. Amidst small talk about the herbs Geo sold, the atmosphere suddenly shifts. Sina cuts them off, ordering the entire group to halt. She picks up the faint, ragged breathing of two creatures nearby, sensing an even darker presence lurking deeper within the cavern. Sina sprints through the tunnel, her gut telling her that those faint pulses belong to two people in desperate need of help. Upon reaching the source, the group discovers two adventurers collapsed on the cold floor, unconscious and clinging to life by a thread. The girls rush toward the fallen adventurers, one of whom is gasping for air. Sina checks their vitals as the blonde girl realizes the wounds are critical, prompting them to deploy healing potions immediately. Amidst the panic and doubt over the potion's effectiveness, Sina senses an ominous shift in the atmosphere. Another monstrous bear emerges from the shadows, stalking its prey until a desperate scream warns, "Sina, behind you!" She whips around to find three massive bears closing in, realizing these beasts are out for revenge for their fallen comrade. Gripping her sword, Sina assumes a defensive stance and blames her own lapse in focus for the adventurer's injuries. She commands the others to prioritize healing while she prepares to solo the pack, knowing protecting her team will be her greatest challenge yet. Suddenly, Sina detects more presences approaching at high speed. While the short-haired girl fears more monsters, Sina notes that these signatures feel entirely different. A squad of archers suddenly appears, unleashing a coordinated volley of arrows upon a single command. The projectiles find their mark, sinking deep into a bear's hide and forcing a roar of agony from the beast. This tactical intervention shifts the momentum instantly. As reinforcements arrive, the blonde girl activates her Empress's authority skill, buffing her allies' strength and speed to turn the tide. Sina squares off against one of the rampaging bears. She shouts for her team to hang back, meeting the monster's lethal claws with a thunderous metallic clash of her blade. With razor-sharp reflexes, she narrowly evades the bear's crushing strikes as they rip through the air. Standing her ground, she keeps her eyes locked on the beast, waiting for the perfect opening to counterattack. Sina spins her blade with lethal intent, channeling her strength for a decisive strike before charging forward with a defiant battle cry. She drives her steel deep into the bear's heart, delivering a fatal blow that sends the creature crashing to the earth. Victorious, she breathes a sigh of relief and silently thanks her mentor for the strength to prevail. The group rushes to the wounded, praising Eliza for her timely intervention. Eliza assesses the damage, realizing the adventurers are on the brink of death. She concludes that only a barrage of mid-level potions can stabilize their condition. Eliza commands the team to use their personal reserves as Sina watches in dread, fearing even high-level magic might not be enough to mend such horrific wounds. Sina pours a radiant potion over the injured man, causing his entire body to erupt in a brilliant healing light. The crowd reels in shock at the display, especially Senna, who can hardly believe her eyes as the healing magic takes hold. A heavy silence falls over the girls as the adventurer's body erupts in an intense glow, his lethal wounds sealing shut before their very eyes. One observer stands frozen, realizing this level of restoration is far beyond any standard magic. To everyone's disbelief, the fallen adventurers regain consciousness as Sina stares in awe at their flawless, scar-free skin. The last of the potions are drained, but the miracle is complete. The dying are now fully recovered. Overwhelmed with emotion, the survivors offer their heartfelt thanks before Eliza invites them to join the search for their missing allies. One survivor accepts without hesitation, though their relief is cut short when Eliza reveals these weren't just high-level potions, they were extraordinary grade. Driven by curiosity, Eliza demands to know the source of these elixirs, prompting a nervous Sina to credit an apothecary named Marlene. With a knowing smile, Eliza commits the name to memory before leading her squad back into the dark depths of the cave. The girls watch her go, whispering about Eliza's reputation as a mysterious B-rank legend who always surrounds herself with the elite. Suddenly, the conversation shifts back to the miraculous potion as one girl lifts the empty vial, her voice trembling with excitement. Her companions stop in their tracks, leaning in to hear her theory on this impossible medicine. They've never even heard of extraordinary grade potions, concluding that something this powerful must be more than just a high-level brew. Sienna pauses, realizing there is only one logical explanation for such a divine effect. She declares that the secret lies within Gio's herb garden, the very place where Gio is currently tending to his vibrant magical plants. Gio arrives with a basket overflowing with fresh herbs, greeted by a girl who can barely contain her enthusiasm. She explains that the reputation of their potions is skyrocketing, all thanks to the legendary quality of the herbs he cultivates. Sina describes how his potion saved a life in an instant, leaving Gio stunned, as he only intended to impress Sifa. Beaming with pride, he admits his excitement led him to harvest a massive surplus of herbs for the day. However, Gio's joy evaporates the moment he catches Marlene's piercing, icy glare, sending a shiver down his spine. The attendant beams over the delivery while Gio catches Marlene staring at him yet again. With a gentle smile, Marlene reveals that his herbs have saved countless lives, leaving Gio to humbly downplay the sheer potency of his high-quality harvest. Gio insists he merely gathered the plants, a fact Dennis quickly confirms. Sina chimes in with glowing praise for Marlene, leaving her visibly moved and fighting back tears. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Marlene seizes Gio's hands and credits him for everything. Feeling the heat of the moment, a flustered Gio promises to return with more soon. Suddenly, a girl bursts in, triumphantly flaunting a hoard of magic stones. She credits their survival to his legendary potions, making Gio realize just how vital his contributions have become. Systems flare as Gio receives a flood of notifications. He's leveled up, mastered new skills, and unlocked rare flora. But amidst the rewards, he discovers something bizarre. A mysterious monster egg that leaves him reeling in confusion. Driven by reckless curiosity, Gio decides to plant the egg, causing the earth to tremble and swell instantly. With a sudden poof, a bizarre fruit-like growth emerges from the soil. Gio watches in awe as a massive egg sprouts forth, defying its small description with its intimidating size. Tension thickens in the silence as he wonders what kind of beast is waiting to hatch from within. He weighs the risks of raising a monster, even though his garden already breathes life into golems. As a curious golem pokes the shell, Gio decides to let the egg remain in the garden for the time being. Laruka arrives shortly after, ecstatic to collect the harvest and showering him with praise for his world-class potions. After offering her a new batch of valuable herbs, Gio shifts the conversation to a darker topic: live monsters. Laruka admits she only deals in monster remains, appearing baffled by the idea of handling a living specimen. She explains that taming wild monsters is an impossible dream, leaving Gio in a thoughtful, heavy silence. Gio is stunned to learn that the idea of coexisting with monsters is unheard of, making them completely worthless on the market. Laruka laughs at his naivety before taking her leave. Left alone, Gio gazes at the egg, contemplating the harsh reality that monsters and humans are destined to remain enemies. He begins to question his own strength, fearing he couldn't stop the creature if things went south. He decides it's safer to never let the egg hatch at all. But just as the thought crosses his mind, the egg begins to vibrate violently on its own. Gio jumps back in shock as the shell rattles. He watches in disbelief, confirming that the life inside is indeed stirring. His heart hammers against his chest as he stares at the mysterious object. bracing for the unknown. As the sun dips below the horizon, Gio sits outside cradling the egg, noting that Sina is still nowhere to be found. He voices his concerns aloud, yet despite his fear, he can't ignore the soothing, gentle warmth radiating from the shell. Later, Sina flashes a satisfied grin, thanking him for the delicious meal he prepared. As they walk together, Gio asks about her day, and she recounts yet another brutal monster encounter while he tends to the greenery. He questions if all monsters are truly that savage. Sina confirms their lethality, recalling how his potions saved adventurers from the brink of death. The grim description sends a chill down Gio's spine, reinforcing his belief that peace between their species is impossible. However, Sina smiles at a nearby golem and muses that perhaps some monsters could actually be allies, or even friends. She even jokes about bringing one home to keep Gio company while she's away on her dangerous missions. Caught off guard, Gio offers a soft smile and insists he isn't lonely, but Sina looks at him with pure skepticism. He fires back with a tease, claiming she's just a lazy houseguest who lounges around with the golems while he does all the work. Gio heads to the garden with the egg in hand, reflecting on his life. His parents may be gone and Sina may be an adventurer, but he isn't truly alone. Taking a seat, he gently brushes the shell and asks if it's doing okay, receiving a faint, rhythmic tremor in response. Suddenly, the egg erupts in a brilliant glow, reacting to his touch and filling him with a surge of adrenaline. With a newfound sense of purpose, he makes his choice. He's going to hatch this creature and raise it himself. Gio resolves to raise the creature himself, already preparing the perfect crops for its arrival. As he brainstorms potential names, he notices the egg trembling with increasing intensity. He ends the day brimming with anticipation, sensing the hatching is imminent. However, dread sinks in the moment Gio touches the egg's surface. It's ice cold. Panicked, he desperately calls out to the shell, haunted by the loss of its usual warmth. The deafening silence terrifies him. He knows if he doesn't act now, the life inside will be snuffed out. Gio sprints into action, frantically wrapping the egg in thick blankets to restore its heat. He keeps a breathless vigil until the warmth finally returns. Relieved, he gently strokes the shell as the temperature stabilizes. Deep into the night, the egg begins to shudder and fracture. Gio jolts awake, his heart racing as he watches the cracked spiderweb across the surface. The moment of birth is finally here. Paralyzed by nerves, he wonders if he should intervene or let nature take its course, crouching beside the egg in agonizing suspense. As the fissures widen, he begins to cheer, urging the creature to break free with every ounce of his spirit. Finally, the shell gives way, and from the wreckage, a small, furry creature resembling a kitten emerges. Gio watches in awe as the newborn lets out its first tiny meow, tumbling softly onto the ground. He's stunned by the sight of the adorable creature, struggling to believe this fragile kitten could ever be considered a monster. Recalling a unique tree in his garden, Gio rushes out to harvest a fruit filled with nutrient-rich milk. He samples the milk, surprised by its potent aroma, but his only priority is ensuring the little one survives. He presents the fruit to the creature, who begins to lap up the milk with a weak, grateful meow. The kitten drinks with newfound vigor, letting out high-pitched cries of pure joy. Gio finally exhales, relieved that his desperate gamble paid off. He mentally offers thanks for a garden overflowing with such nutritious food. Gio strokes the small kitten, encouraging it to grow strong while warning it not to drink too fast and get a stomachache. The tiny creature meows and rubs against his hand, instantly showing affection for its new master. Gio is absolutely charmed, praising how soft and affectionate the kitten is as he melts at the adorable sight. Gio realizes the little guy needs a name. He figures as long as it acts like a cat, there's no harm in keeping it as a pet. Noticing its pristine white fur, he considers names like Snow or Ice. After finishing its milk, the kitten trots toward the boy with tiny, determined steps. Suddenly, a brilliant idea strikes Gio, and a wide grin spreads across his face as he exclaims, "Oh!" He points excitedly and declares, "Your name is Milk." The little monster meows curiously, seemingly satisfied with the choice. Gio returns home, buzzing with excitement. He presents the kitten to Sina and announces his return. When a shocked Sina asks what it is, he simply smiles and explains he's decided to adopt it. Sina approaches, enchanted, asking if it's a cat and where he found it. Gio keeps it vague, deciding it's best to hide the fact that it hatched from a monster egg. But when Sina tries to grab the kitten, it bites her hand without mercy, making her scream in pain. Gio just laughs it off, claiming it's her own fault for messing with the kitten's head. As the kitten growls, a jealous Sina bursts into tears, accusing her brother of loving the cat more than her. Gio tries to soothe Milk, finding his sister's overreaction hilarious. Sina glares at the kitten, fearing it's trying to replace her. She asserts she's the only real sister, but Gio interrupts, revealing that Milk is actually male. Gio serves dinner and pours a bowl of milk for the kitten. Sina spots the harvest and asks if the milk came from the garden, demanding some for herself. They both drink happily, savoring the incredibly sweet and delicious flavor of the garden's bounty. Gio watches them, stunned that he can harvest such high-quality food right from his own backyard. As they enjoy dinner together, Gio looks at the energetic kitten and smiles, never imagining his garden would grant him a new family member. Later, Gio heads out to deliver herbs, feeling fulfilled by his growing family and successful harvest. He greets the girls, revealing he's brought an extra-large haul this time. The girls are stunned by the variety Gio presents. When he asks if they're useful, they reveal that every single herb is incredibly rare. Spotting a rare herb, she's stunned. It's her first time witnessing the legendary chili grass in person. Buzzing with excitement, the woman reveals these herbs can brew an ice potion. Gio is intrigued, learning that one sip drops your body temperature and grants total immunity to fire and heat. Gio wonders if these potions are useful for adventurers, and she confirms they're essential. With this brew, even the most inhospitable depths of the dungeon become accessible. Suddenly, the scenery shifts to a hellscape of molten lava and blistering heat. Gio surveys the landscape, identifying it as the volcanic zone. The girls trek through a narrow tunnel, drenched in sweat. One complains she's about to dehydrate, while another notes the rising heat means the volcanic zone is just ahead. As they push forward, they realize they've left the caves behind. They've entered a massive network of connected zones, spanning forests, ruins, and even treacherous underwater depths. The dungeon consists of 5 distinct realms, each harboring unique monsters. The underwater zone is the deadliest of all, remaining completely unconquered to this day. The volcanic zone they're approaching is the second most brutal region. Only the elite dare to enter, and conquering it requires slaying the zone's terrifying boss. Toppling a boss yields legendary rewards and immense fame, but the girls hesitate. They wonder if they truly possess the strength to survive a boss encounter. Exploring this inferno without heat-resistant gear is suicide, especially since water magic is useless here. Just as they consider retreating, Sifa pulls a mysterious item from her bag. Sifa reveals a shimmering, icy blue potion. The girls stare in awe, having never seen such a vibrant, chilling hue before. She explains it's a prototype ice potion gifted by Marlene. Consuming it grants the drinker absolute resistance to the scorching flames ahead. Skepticism fills the air, but the reality is undeniable. Marlene is field testing these miracles. They realize the potion was only possible because of the rare chili grass, and the source of that ingredient is obvious. Gio casually appears with a haul of rare plants, admitting he's the supplier. Realizing there's no excuse to turn back now, Sifa takes the first swig. The liquid is sub-zero, sending a shocking chill through her body. The others follow suit, suffering through instant brain freezes as the intense cold takes hold. Reinvigorated, Sifa gives the command to move out. The group charges toward the volcanic zone with newfound confidence. They finally cross the threshold into the volcanic zone. The ground is a web of cracked earth, spewing toxic vapors and radiating lethal heat. Navigating around bubbling pools of magma, they marvel at the scorched wasteland. The tension is palpable. The true trial has officially begun. Despite the hellish temperatures, one girl feels remarkably refreshed, completely unfazed by the surrounding inferno. The potion's efficacy is undeniable. The heat is no longer a threat. While they still have to avoid the molten lava, they can now traverse this deadly terrain with ease. As the group treks through the scorching volcanic terrain, 3 hellish dogs wreathed in flames suddenly surround them. One of the girls spots the danger and screams a warning to her comrades. They realize these are no ordinary beasts. They're flaming hounds, rumored to be far more powerful than any foe they've faced before. Without a moment's hesitation, one of the warriors draws her blade ready to face the heat of battle. She lunges forward, focusing her entire being into a single, precise strike that connects directly with a flaming hound, sending it howling in agony. The monster falls with surprising ease, leaving her puzzled as to why such a formidable creature was so incredibly weak. It turns out her strike instantly extinguished its flames. The others realize this must be the devastating effect of the ice potion she consumed. Realizing the potion's effects are long-lasting, the group's excitement surges as they realize they can push their exploration even further. Fueled by newfound confidence, they set their sights on conquering the entire volcanic region. Meanwhile, Gio arrives beaming with pride, carrying a massive haul of chili grass he's harvested to aid Sifa on her journey. Eager to see what else he's capable of, Gio decides to experiment with his unused skills and crops. He activates a skill called Defensive Wall, an upgrade to his previous fence, and watches in awe as a massive structure begins to manifest. In an instant, towering fortifications erupt from the earth, encircling his house and garden. He stands paralyzed in shock. This isn't just a simple barrier, it's a god-tier fortress. Feeling overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the wall, Gio decides it's a bit too much and moves to undo the skill. He then triggers Conceal Garden to hide his domain, feeling relieved when things return to normal, yet haunted by the sheer scale of his power. However, after attempting to hide the garden, Gio is confused. Everything looks exactly the same, and he wonders if the skill even worked. He turns his attention to his new crops, initially seeing the same old list, until something unexpected catches his eye and leaves him speechless. Gio realizes that every single one of his crops is now ranked as high quality, a massive jump from their previous average status. He's hit with a surge of excitement, knowing that if the average crops were delicious, these new ones will taste like a gift from the gods. Later, Sifa trudges home, utterly drained from her volcanic expedition, only to freeze in her tracks as something bizarre catches her eye. Sifa stands frozen in shock, her home and garden transformed into something unrecognizable. Panicked, she frantically calls for her brother and their cat, Milk, demanding to know what happened. Gio remains eerily calm, baffled by her reaction as he claims nothing has changed, but to Sifa, her entire world looks brand new. Terror strikes Sifa as she realizes everything she once knew has vanished into thin air. She screams in desperation, staring into a void where her life used to be. Gio quickly realizes the house hasn't moved. It's simply being masked by his formidable new skill. He explains he was merely testing his abilities, and with a flick of his wrist, the illusion fades, though he notes that vanishing the house too often might give the neighbors a heart attack. Later, a completely drained Sifa drags herself back, complaining that she almost had to spend the night in the dirt. After recounting her grueling trips to the volcanic region, Gio reveals he's already moved more stock to Marlene. Realizing Sifa is at her limit, he decides it's time to pivot his strategy and support her properly. Gio proposes a massive banquet once Sifa conquers her next milestone. The mere mention of a feast sends her into a trance, her eyes sparkling as she repeats the word like a prayer. Overjoyed, Sifa wants to celebrate immediately, but Gio tells her to hold her horses. He wants this event to be a legendary surprise for both Sifa and Annie. He needs time to prepare his secret weapon. Fueled by the promise of a glorious reward, Sifa's motivation skyrockets to a whole new level. The girls dive back into the grind, exploring treacherous caves while chugging potions and studying maps. Every shop visit is just fuel for their next descent. They delve deeper, uncovering glowing crystals as Sifa hauls massive ore blocks with ease. When a creature dares to cross her path, she sends it flying with a single bone-crushing blow. After a long day of scouting, Sifa finally collapses into a peaceful sleep under Gio's watchful eye. But in the shadows of the cave, a terrifying roar echoes, signaling a looming threat. They finally come face to face with their target, Volcano, the imposing leader of the Red Lizard Men. The girls' expressions turn dead serious as they stare down the volcanic beast. Tension fills the air as Sifa reels from the monster's sheer size and impenetrable scales. Annie drops a chilling truth. No one has survived an encounter with this beast in years. Regardless of the odds, they refuse to back down. With Sifa as their tactical ace, they prepare to launch a combined assault. The duo gears up for the clash of a lifetime, downing ice potions and reminding themselves of the banquet waiting for them at the finish line. Every buff is applied and every detail is checked. Preparation ends and the hunt begins. Magic swords hum with power as the final potions are consumed. In a heavy silence, they exchange a single determined nod. The time for talk is over. The battle erupts. Support abilities flare to life, weakening the enemy as Sifa charges forward, her blade ready to carve her way to victory. The volcanic area boss unleashes a furious roar and charges. The girls stand their ground, swords drawn and senses sharpened. Sina lunges forward, executing a lightning-fast slash. She narrowly evades the beast's counterattack by a hair's breadth. The boss growls in frustration as the battle intensifies, while her allies shout words of caution. Sina stares down the beast, noting its sudden hesitation. It clearly recognizes her overwhelming power, making a frontal assault difficult. One of the girls vanishes among the rocks, claiming her concealment is absolute. Though her hunter instincts aren't built for a direct brawl, she waits patiently for the perfect opening. Just as the boss commits to a full-force charge, Sina barks out the command. A determined glance between them confirms that the plan is officially in motion. She thrusts her hand forward, activating a command spell that forces the beast to bow. Crushing pressure brings the monster to its knees. Seizing the moment, Annie leaps through the air and delivers a punishing blow that sends the monster recoiling in agony. The others watch in awe as Sina cheers for her friend. Annie retreats with a smirk, shocked by her own destructive potential. She realizes the ice potion provided a massive power spike and revels in the results. The girls celebrate their flawless coordination as Annie and Sifa share a high five. However, the victory is short-lived. The boss staggers back to its feet, gasping for air but still lethal. Sifa signals for the final push, declaring they're going all out to end this once and for all. With the job done, the girls make their way back into the Adventurers Guild. They are welcomed by the receptionist, Canalia, who immediately greets Sifa. Canalia asks about their new recruit, and Sifa introduces Sina as their childhood friend. Sina starts daydreaming about a feast and begins drooling, prompting a comment from Sifa. Canalia watches, skeptical of Sina's strength despite Sifa's reputation. The girls explain they've arrived solely to submit their latest mission report. Senna slams a massive scale onto the table, leaving Canalia stunned as she reveals it's a trophy from the legendary monster, Volcano. When Sifa confirms they've slain the beast, Canalia's scream of disbelief echoes through the hall, drawing the gaze of every adventurer present. Still reeling, Canalia demands to know if they had help, noting the scale is far too large for any ordinary red lizard man. The trio stands firm, confirming they took down the boss entirely on their own, leaving the receptionist speechless. A teammate notes the massive carcass still awaits recovery, sending Canalia into a frantic spiral of logistics and heat-resistant gear planning. Annie steps in with a smirk, revealing that her overpowered ice potions turn the volcanic hellscape into a breezy walk in the park. Canalia's brain short-circuits as she tries to process how a group of young girls conquered a legendary boss using a potion she's never even heard of. Drowning in the absurdity of it all, a sweating Canalia screams for the guild leader while the onlookers watch in total confusion. The recovery team soon reaches the volcano, marveling at how the potion completely nullifies the oppressive, deadly heat. Sina thanks them for the backup and takes the lead to guide them toward the fallen beast. One adventurer stares at the records of the undefeated boss, still questioning if these girls truly pulled off the impossible. That doubt vanishes the moment Sina points toward the horizon, announcing they've arrived. The support group stands frozen in awe at the sight of Volcano's colossal corpse lying defeated on the ground. Expert eyes examine the body, noting with shock that there are almost no battle marks, a feat unheard of for a fight of this magnitude. They realize the impenetrable scales were sliced like butter, leaving everyone wondering what kind of monster could deliver such a clean kill. They assume it was the B-rank Sifa or perhaps Annie, but both girls deny it, leaving only one shocking candidate left. With a confident grin, the young girl steps forward and claims the kill for herself. The veterans are left speechless, unable to reconcile her cheerful appearance with the raw power needed to slay such a titan. She then casually displays a mountain of magic stones, leaving the boys floored by her nonchalant attitude toward her godlike feat. The girl fishes for compliments after receiving a massive reward, but Milk the cat suddenly demands attention. As the boy strokes his fur, he notes that Milk's presence alone is refreshing, making the girl sulk and claim she should be just as revitalizing. He realizes Milk has grown exponentially in just a few days, leaving everyone startled and the atmosphere incredibly awkward. Desperate to shift the mood, he excitedly suggests using their new magic stones to overhaul the garden. After leveling up, he gains a mysterious skill called Travel Between while unlocking a treasure trove of new crops and ores. His list now features high-tier materials like gold, silver, iron, and even precious amethysts. He's hyped to see gold ore on the list, but quickly ignores a strange home garden prompt, pretending he saw nothing. He brushes off the girl's concern before she announces she's taking a well-deserved break from the adventuring life. The boy decides to invite Sifa and Annie over, causing his sister to realize he's finally revealing his ace in the hole. A massive feast is prepared to celebrate their hard-fought victory against the boss of the volcano area. The table overflows with gourmet dishes as the chef proudly unveils her culinary masterpiece. Annie and Sifa are blown away by the spread, but Alicia reveals the secret ingredient. Everything came straight from Lucas's garden. Sifa offers her thanks while Alicia encourages everyone to eat until they're stuffed. The group shares a joyful toast, commemorating their triumph over the treacherous volcano. The girls stare at the sizzling burgers on the grill, their mouths watering at the sight of the juicy meat. Suddenly, the girls freeze in place, mesmerized by a mysterious glow radiating from the dish. A heavy silence descends upon the table, leaving the boy completely baffled by their sudden shift in mood. He panics, fearing the meal might actually taste terrible. But then he notices the girls' eyes are sparkling with awe. One of them finally manages to speak, revealing that the truth is quite the opposite. The food is otherworldly. She begins devouring her plate in a state of pure culinary ecstasy. Everyone watches in shock as she descends into a food-induced frenzy, unable to stop devouring the delicious meal. The girls become completely addicted, begging for seconds as the situation spirals out of control, leaving the boy's pleas for restraint ignored. He finally realizes the terrifying truth. These high-grade ingredients are dangerously potent. Meanwhile, the girl continues her feast, praising the tender meat and crispy onions that remain divine even with mid-tier ingredients. As they rave about the juicy flavors, the protagonist grows anxious, fearing these ingredients could spark a literal war, and decides to seal them away for safety. One of the girls flashes a bright smile at Gio, expressing her pure joy at receiving such an incredible reward. He responds with humble grace, insisting it's the least he can do for those who have taken such good care of Sina. Between bites, the girls shower Sina with praise, acknowledging her undeniable talent. They credit her for their swift victory in the volcanic region, prompting a boastful Sina to remind her brother of his own contributions, leaving him stunned by her growth. Observing their joy, the boy wonders how else he can support them moving forward. Yet deep down he admits to a lingering sense of jealousy. While Gio is lost in thought, Sifa suddenly stands and calls his name with a piercing gaze. She offers her sincere gratitude, admitting that without his legendary ice potions, the volcanic boss would have been an impossible nightmare. With a serene smile, Sifa acknowledges his hidden strength, leaving Gio deeply moved while Sina watches with eyes full of admiration. The girls begin recounting his vital contributions, from providing essential potions to supporting their entire dungeon crawl. Sifa insists he takes a well-deserved rest while she handles the remaining chores. Surprised but touched, Gio raises his glass to join the celebratory toast, finally realizing that even from the sidelines, he is a vital part of this team. The feast concludes with the girls completely stuffed and satisfied. They offer their final thanks, declaring they can't possibly eat another bite. Gio watches with pride while Sifa notes the empty plates as proof of his culinary genius, prompting him to thank Alicia for her assistance. The girls decide to hang up their swords for a while. While one promises to catch up on sleep, the other offers to help at the restaurant, much to the delight of Gio and Alicia. Gio watches Sifa depart with Senna, curious about her next move. Before she leaves, Sifa bids them farewell, promising they'll meet again soon. Suddenly, Sifa grabs Gio's arm. He spins around, caught off guard, and wonders what's wrong. With a gaze that is both serious and serene, she grips his hand tightly and offers her sincere gratitude. Gio is stunned by her sudden warmth, his mind racing with the possibility that she might actually have feelings for him. As she thanks him for the food and potions, his heart begins to thrum. Shyness creeping in, she asks if they can hang out tomorrow. Gio's brain short-circuits as he realizes he might have just scored a date. The next morning, Gio is looking sharp, adjusting his tie with a confident glint in his eye. His sleepy sister comments on his elegant transformation, and Gio just flashes a knowing smirk. He says goodbye to his cat, Milk, and leaves Sina in charge of the feline for the day. Brimming with confidence, he announces that he might not return until the sun goes down. Gio struts through town, his heart dancing at the prospect of some one-on-one time with Sifa. He's already picturing romantic landscapes and the perfect atmosphere for their big day. He can barely keep it together, his imagination running wild with visions of the ultimate date. Spotting Sifa in the distance, she greets him with a warm, "Good morning," instantly snapping him back to reality. Fighting back his nerves, Gio asks if she's been waiting long, but she insists she just arrived. When he asks where she wants to go, she reveals she's already planned everything, sending his internal hype into overdrive. Sifa takes the lead, insisting that today is her way of repaying him for everything he's done. Gio is floored by her resolve, barely able to muster a response. He's practically glowing, ecstatic that Sifa has curated a special day just for him. As they set off, he's absolutely certain that this will be a day to remember. However, they soon arrive at a gloomy, tree-shrouded house with a bizarre energy. Sifa announces they've arrived, and Gio's heart sinks as he recognizes the building. It's Marlene's pharmacy. Confusion washes over him as Sifa marches straight to the door and calls out for the owner. Marlene greets them with a mischievous grin, teasing them about whether this is a secret date. Both of them flush with embarrassment, but Sifa insists they're just browsing as they head inside under Marlene's watchful eye. The atmosphere turns awkward fast. Marlene shoots Gio a look that screams, "There's no way this is romantic." Sifa begins intensely inspecting the shop's inventory. Gio stands there baffled, staring at jars of strange liquids and realizing that this date has zero romantic chemistry. Gio reflects on his happiness just being near Sifa, yet he's plagued by the mystery of her inner thoughts. Lost in his own head, he's jolted back to reality when Sifa locks eyes with him and asks if he's actually enjoying himself. A flustered Gio confirms he's having a blast, only to realize he's been ignoring the merchandise to stare at her the entire time. They exit the shop, leaving Gio drowning in a sea of confusion. At their next stop, his heart sinks at the sight of heavy armor. This date is feeling more like a military inspection. Sifa checks in on his mood again, and he offers a dazed but sincere response. Just as Gio laments the lack of cute clothing stores, Sifa emerges in a new outfit, leaving him absolutely paralyzed. Their next destination is an equipment shop where the owner enthusiastically offers Gio the latest gear to test out. Sifa showcases two distinct looks, one light and agile, the other a heavy iron fortress, leaving Gio awestruck by her power. Struggling to form a sentence, Gio chooses the lighter gear, but accidentally implies it doesn't fit her, sending him into a panicked spiral. While he clumsily explains he prefers her original look, Sifa returns in an even more provocative outfit, shattering his composure. The compliment makes her blush, but despite the fashion show, Sifa reveals she has no intention of actually buying anything. The panic peaks when they arrive at the Adventurers Guild, the least romantic place on the planet. Gio is stunned to see the respect Sifa commands, as everyone recognizes her as a legendary rank B adventurer. He tries to play it cool while standing next to a local celebrity, but Sifa remains focused and stoic. In the training hall, they witness a brutal instructor berating a student, warning him that his weakness will get him eaten alive. Amidst the clashing of steel and arrows, Gio notices a lone warrior slumped in the corner, radiating pure frustration. Sifa observes the chaos with an intense, calculated silence, absorbing every detail of the training session. Gio watches the warriors and sinks into despair, questioning if this can even be classified as a date anymore. He hits a full-blown existential crisis, realizing that his romantic expectations were light years away from Sifa's reality. Sifa asks once more if he's having fun, and despite his doubts, he says yes. She simply replies with a good, while he finds her behavior a total mystery. Nearby, a group of boys whisper, encouraging one of their own to take a leap of faith. They shove the nervous boy toward Gio and Sifa, urging him to show some courage. Gio watches the approach, completely baffled by the situation, assuming the boy is about to confess his love to Sifa. Instead, the boy lunges forward and begs her to be his training partner, leaving Gio sighing in relief that his rival isn't appearing just yet. Sifa accepts the challenge, while Gio decides to hang back and observe. The boy erupts in celebration, practically buzzing with excitement. Gio watches intently as Sifa prepares for battle. This is the first time he'll witness her true combat prowess, and his curiosity is reaching a breaking point. With a confident roar, the boy launches a full-scale charge, but Sifa parries every strike with effortless grace. No matter how hard he pushes, she remains an immovable fortress, completely unfazed by his desperate efforts. Sifa executes a lightning-fast maneuver, forcing the boy into a frantic reaction. But he's disarmed with a single devastating blow. He crashes to the dirt in shock, finally realizing the massive chasm in their power levels. Sifa halts her momentum at the absolute last second, hovering the tip of her spear inches from the boy's throat. He freezes in terror, drenched in sweat as he realizes how close he came to a lethal strike. Defeated and humbled, he drops his sword and yields. Sifa stands firm, her spear still leveled at her opponent. The crowd watches in stunned silence, while Gio's eyes sparkle with pure admiration for her godlike skill. Gio breaks the silence with enthusiastic applause, thrilled to see Sifa fighting like a seasoned adventurer. The onlookers shower her with praise, and Sifa graciously offers a hand to help her fallen opponent up. Other students swarm her, begging for a chance to spar, but she politely shuts them down. She declares that her training is finished for the day, claiming she has important plans for the afternoon. Gio watches her closely, wondering what could possibly be so urgent. Gio asks if she's officially done, and she confirms the training session is over. She immediately asks if he's hungry, and Gio's mind starts racing, imagining a romantic meal at a stylish, high-end cafe. But his dreams are crushed instantly when they end up right back at the same shop they visited yesterday, leaving him absolutely floored. As they enter, Annie greets them with a look of pure shock. She's stunned to see the two of them together again and demands to know what they're doing there. Sifa bluntly states they're just here to eat, but as Gio tries to explain, Annie pulls him aside, making it clear that wasn't the answer she was looking for. As the restaurant erupts in whispers, Annie suspiciously asks if Gio and Sifa are on a date. Gio snaps back, questioning her obsession, while a flustered Annie claims it's nothing. Gio reflects on the day, noting that since Sifa chose every location, it hardly felt like a romantic outing. Despite his confusion, he admits he had a blast, though he still refuses to call it a real date. While Annie watches them with a calculating gaze, Sifa remains the picture of serenity, smiling as she enjoys the atmosphere. Annie carefully deconstructs the situation. She bluntly declares that Gio is a century too early to date someone like Sifa, leaving him utterly crushed as she orders him to sit and wait for his food. Gio hangs his head in shame, realizing he was far too arrogant. To him, Sifa is an unreachable goddess, older, wiser, and a legendary adventurer. When she inquires about his conversation with Annie, he quickly deflects. Sensing his low mood, Sifa asks if he's exhausted. Gio masks his feelings, secretly convinced that a real date would have involved far more special locations. Sifa attempts to lift his spirits, promising that a good meal cures all. Surprised by her simple charm, Gio can't help but smile. Reinvigorated, he vows to feast, and she happily agrees. He finally realizes that the date label doesn't actually matter. Gio basks in the joy of Sifa's company as they dine. As they depart, Annie and the staff offer their professional farewells. Gio grumbles about being stuffed before admitting the food was world-class. Sifa checks on him, and they continue their stroll with renewed energy. Sifa beams, claiming this restaurant is her absolute favorite, perhaps even the best on the planet. Gio is struck by a realization. For her, this place was incredibly special all along. A heavy silence falls as both hesitate to speak. Gio tries to be polite, but Sifa's eyes drop as she prepares to say something difficult. Sifa asks if he was upset earlier, fearing she's to blame. She apologizes for her poor choices in locations, leaving Gio completely baffled by her self-doubt. She confesses her only goal was to show her gratitude. Lacking social experience, she simply took him to the places she loved most, hoping he'd feel the same. In that moment, the truth hits Gio like a lightning bolt, and the meaning behind her choices becomes clear. Sifa admits she almost dragged him to a dungeon instead. Gio bursts into laughter, finally appreciating her genuine honesty and seeing the day in a whole new light. Sifa asks if Gio enjoyed himself, and he enthusiastically confirms that he did. He admits that simply being by her side makes him feel good, regardless of the location. Sifa is stunned by the response, and Gio instantly turns beet red, realizing his words sounded like a full-blown confession. A genuine smile spreads across Sifa's face as she tells him she's glad to hear it. Watching her, Gio thinks she's incredibly cool, though perhaps a little clumsy as well. Gio walks beside Sifa with a beaming smile, reflecting on their incredible day. He cherishes the new sides of her he discovered, yet a nagging doubt remains. Was her previous behavior a sign of total disinterest? Sifa then announces there's one final location she wants to show him. Caught off guard, Gio panics, thinking he's about to meet her parents. However, Sifa reveals the destination is her own home, one of her favorite spots, leaving Gio absolutely speechless. Just as Gio realizes that spending time with Sifa is all that matters, a frantic shout shatters the peace, warning the boss of terrible news. The pair rushes toward the commotion, and Gio recalls that Sifa's family actually runs a blacksmith workshop. Upon arriving at the forge, they are greeted by Sifa's father, Billy. Though he looks troubled, his face lights up the moment he recognizes Gio. Gio attempts a formal introduction, but Billy cuts him off with a heavy pat on the back, demanding to know why he's with his daughter. Seeing them together, Billy instantly assumes they're on a date, spiraling into a nervous frenzy. Sifa quickly tries to pivot the conversation, asking what went wrong. One of the workers confirms their fears, declaring they have a massive crisis on their hands. As the group discusses the issue, heavy, rhythmic footsteps begin to approach. A mysterious man emerges with a smug grin, mocking the racket they're making. Both Gio and Billy stare at the newcomer in shock. He strides into the shop with an intimidating presence. Locking eyes with his target, he demands his money in a cold, threatening tone. The atmosphere becomes suffocatingly tense in an instant. The bald man introduces himself as Hizya, flashing a mocking smile as he demands a debt 3 months past due. While Billy looks on grimly, Gio and Sifa are stunned, with Gio questioning if this thug is actually Billy's creditor. Billy attempts to explain that he took on a massive commission specifically to settle the debt. He swears he'll get the funds, but a worker drops a bombshell. The merchant who placed the order has vanished. Gio and Sifa are left reeling, caught in the middle of a total disaster. Hasea puts on a facade of concern before pivotally taunting Billy, openly doubting his ability to settle the debt. Wearing a snide smirk, he hints that the client's disappearance was no accident. A shocked Billy realizes Hasea is pulling the strings. Billy fiercely defends the workshop, swearing to protect his grandfather's legacy from Hasea's greed. Unfazed, Hasea calls it a tragedy before proposing a sinister alternative to the debt. Hasea drops a bombshell, demanding Billy's own daughter in exchange for the shop. This vile proposal leaves everyone in the room stunned. A confused Sifa stammers, unable to believe she's being treated like a bargaining chip. Gio's blood boils at the disgusting offer, and he roars at Hasea to shut his mouth. Tension reaches a breaking point as Hasea glares at Gio, clearly irritated by the interruption. Gio immediately regrets his impulsive outburst as Hasea looms over him. The atmosphere turns suffocating until the loan shark raises a hand, signaling for Gio to wait. Hasea's expression darkens, but the blacksmith stands his ground, reminding the villain that the deadline hasn't passed and demanding he leave. Hasea flashes a mocking grin, conceding that he's lost this particular round. Before exiting, Hasea issues a final warning. They have exactly 3 days to find the gold, so they better start praying. An oppressive silence hangs over the room, weighing heavily on Gio and the girl by his side. A frantic worker rushes in with grim news. The Merchants Guild has no record of the client who placed the massive order. Billy apologizes to Gio for dragging him into this nightmare. Frustration boils over as he realizes the entire order was an elaborate trap orchestrated by Hasea. Billy explains that despite their elite craftsmanship and loyal clientele, the shop is drowning. Shady new customers keep altering specifications, forcing the workshop to eat the massive production costs. Billy recalls a moment of pure desperation at a local tavern, drowning his sorrows with no way out. That's when a man approached him, offering a lifeline. That man was Hasea, and he knew exactly how to reel Billy in. Billy initially thought Hasea was his savior, but the man vanished the moment payment was due. The group finally connects the dots. Hasea didn't just provide the loan. He fabricated the fake order to ensure they could never pay it back. Gio senses a deeper conspiracy. It was never about the gold. Hasea's true target is the workshop itself. He's intentionally blocking their payments to seize the property by force. The girl considers using the bounty from an area boss to clear the debt, but 3 days is an impossible window for such a feat. Meanwhile, the boy offers to shoulder the debt, asking for the total amount and hoping it's manageable. He presents the gold coins earned from his harvest, but the blacksmith simply raises a silent, heavy hand. He reveals the crushing reality. The debt stands at a staggering 500 gold coins. Shock ripples through the room as they realize the debt ballooned in just 3 days, leaving the atmosphere thick with despair. Gio thanks the girl for her support as she vows to do everything in her power to assist him. Later, Gio wanders the city, realizing the loan shark's true target is likely Sifa, and fearing his crops won't be enough to save her. He considers a risky gamble and searches for Laruka, though she isn't due to collect the crops until the following morning. Unable to wait another second, he surges forward, determined to take matters into his own hands. He rushes straight to the Merchants Guild, desperate to track her down. However, his inquiries are met with dead ends, as the guild employees claim the elusive merchant is nowhere to be found. Just as hope begins to fade, Laruka suddenly appears and calls out to him. Overwhelmed with relief, Gio rushes to her side, his frantic energy immediately signaling that something is terribly wrong. Gio explains he has something vital to show her, pulling a mysterious stone from his pack. Her eyes widen in disbelief as she identifies the specimen as high-quality gold ore. Gio reveals he actually grew the ore in his garden, asking if selling a massive haul could wipe out the debt. Laruka warns him that it's not that simple, as the government and nobility monopolize gold mines, making his sale look like a crime. As Gio's heart sinks, Laruka's mind begins racing toward a brilliant alternative. She asks if he can grow other metals, and he reveals a massive mithril plantation, a rare, unregulated treasure that serves as the perfect solution. Despite Gio's anxiety over the looming deadline, Laruka confidently takes charge of the business deal. She assures him he can trust her completely, finally allowing a smile of relief to cross Gio's face. He tells her he's counting on her. Elsewhere, a blacksmith prepares to abandon his workshop due to crushing debt, despite his daughter's desperate pleas to stay. Suddenly, Gio and Laruka arrive, with Laruka posing as a high-end merchant ready to place a massive order. Though the blacksmith claims he's closing for good, Laruka stuns him by offering to pay the entire sum in advance. As he reels from the shock, she asks him to examine her materials, hoping it will be enough to finally clear his name. Laruka reveals a mountain of rare mithril ore, claiming she has even more stockpiled in reserve. In exchange for the legendary metal, she demands 200 full sets of swords and shields. The blacksmith is floored by the scale of the order, realizing it's his ticket out of ruin, until he sees the contract's actual value. Suspicion creeps in as the deal seems too good to be true, forcing Laruka to address his fears of a potential scam. She reveals that Gio is the one who orchestrated the deal, asking the smith if he truly trusts the young man. Sifa cuts through the tension, declaring her absolute faith in Gio. Recalling how Gio stood up for his daughter, the blacksmith's hesitation finally begins to melt away. He enthusiastically shakes Laruka's hand to seal the deal, while Geo and Sifa watch the partnership form. When the payment is handed over, it glitters with the unmistakable shine of rare platinum coins. Gio is stunned by the sight of such legendary wealth, but he notices Laruka is keeping the true origin of the order a secret. Overjoyed, the blacksmith rushes off to find Hasea, oblivious to the mysterious man lurking in the shadows. The stranger mocks his haste, suggesting he's been waiting for this exact moment to strike. A group of thugs suddenly block the blacksmith's path, their leader sarcastically accusing him of trying to flee the city. The leader reminds him that the debt is due today, making it clear that running away is no longer an option. Fearing for his daughter's safety, the blacksmith tells Sifa to stay back while Gio orders her to take cover inside the shop. The thugs approach with smug confidence, certain the blacksmith couldn't scrape together the 500 gold coins he owes. To their absolute shock, he reveals the platinum coins and demands to know if this settles the score. The collectors are floored by the sight of the platinum, unable to fathom how he amassed such a fortune in a mere 3 days. Laruka steps in with a smirk, explaining it was all part of a recent deal where she served as the middleman. The leader is stunned by her efficiency, baffled that someone so small could move that much gold, but he quickly pivots with a wicked grin, claiming he forgot to mention the interest. The collector smugly declares that with the added interest, the debt has skyrocketed to 1,500 gold coins, triple the original amount, leaving Laruka and Gio stunned while the blacksmith roars in protest. The collector cold-heartedly implies that even the coins and the workshop combined won't be enough to clear this new debt. With a predatory smile, he demands the blacksmith hand over his daughter as payment, confirming Gio's suspicion that Sifa was the target all along. Consumed by rage, the blacksmith clenches his fists and bellows that he'll protect his daughter even if it costs him his life. Sensing the exploding tension, the collectors try to maintain control, claiming they'd prefer not to resort to violence. As Sifa watches in terror, Gio's fury boils over. He steps forward to confront the group, demanding they end this pathetic charade. Gio stares down the leader without a hint of hesitation, his firm declaration leaving the man momentarily stunned and speechless. The leader suddenly recognizes Gio as the brat from their previous encounter, and his temper flares. He aggressively corners the boy, but despite his fear, Gio stands his ground as Sifa cries out his name in panic. With a voice full of conviction, Gio declares that this is absolutely his business because Sifa is his most precious friend, a statement that leaves the girl breathless while the leader laughs at the boy's reckless bravery. The thug suddenly seizes Gio by the collar, threatening to see just how much pain the boy can endure before he goes running home. Just as things turn violent, Laruka breaks the tension with a mysterious smile. She casually mentions she forgot a crucial detail about their client, searching through her bag with a calm, teasing air. Flashing a confident grin, Laruka pulls a document from her bag and reveals that the true client is the regional lord himself. This bombshell leaves the room paralyzed. The collector freezes in shock while his henchmen tremble, and Gio struggles to process the news. The scene shifts to the nearby castle where a mysterious figure sips tea, admitting they always find themselves caving to Laruka's requests. It turns out this person is the provincial chief of Arsel, confirming that Laruka has the region's highest authority backing her up. Gio recognizes the official coat of arms on the scroll, confirming that this is indeed a decree from the Lord. Laruka delivers a chilling warning. If they try to extort the workshop, the Lord will personally see to their punishment. She continues to apply pressure with a sharp smile, making it clear that things will get ugly if their corruption reaches the Lord's ears. Utterly defeated by the threat, the leader finally buckles and agrees to accept the original 500 coins. The bandits storm off in a blind rage as the group watches them disappear into the distance. With the danger gone, Laruka begins to tremble in pure relief, while Gio and the boy finally exhale after the suffocating tension. Gio rushes over to the boy in relief, praising his courage, but the kid just laughs and insists he's fine. Sifa approaches at a run as the boy apologizes for his recklessness, while she watches him with visible relief. Suddenly, Sifa leaps into Gio's arms for a tight hug, catching him completely off guard while the others watch in shock. With a loving smile, Sifa thanks Gio, telling him that because of his bravery, her father's workshop is finally safe, though Gio's brain is currently short-circuiting from the sudden physical contact. Gio continues to stammer in shock as Sifa shyly offers her thanks, while the blacksmith praises Laruka for her help. Laruka dismisses the praise with a smile, noting that she only helped because she saw Gio fighting with everything he had. As the blacksmith and Laruka shower him with praise, Gio begins to panic, remembering the embarrassing things he shouted earlier. Fumbling over his words, he desperately tries to explain himself and address the awkward declaration he made in the heat of battle. Gio braces for a total social disaster, but Sifa reveals she didn't hear a word of his outburst, much to his massive relief. He takes a steadying breath as the atelier owner showers him with gratitude. Sifa vows to find a way to repay his kindness. Gio offers a warm smile, claiming Sifa's hug was more than enough. Internally, he reflects on his usual lack of bravery. He feels a surge of relief for finally standing up to that intimidating thug. Gio catches Laruka's excited thumbs up and beams. Sifa observes the duo with a serene expression, whispering a quiet prayer of thanks. Gio gazes at Sifa, while Laruka remains at his side. He finds peace in knowing he protected her precious smile. Elsewhere, a bald man lashes out in a fury, shattering a wall. His elaborate plan lies in ruins, and he dreads reporting this failure to his boss. His blonde subordinate reveals he couldn't locate the girl's hideout, but he did find her favorite haunt. He identifies the home of the young man who accompanied the merchant. The bald man sneers, already nursing a grudge against the boy. Unaware of the eyes on him, Gio harvests vegetables in his garden. From the shadows, a mysterious figure plots to use him as the perfect bait. Back at the shop, Dennis eagerly volunteers to test a new potion, embracing his role as the loyal assistant. The woman instructs him to submerge his face in a basin of potion-infused water. Intrigued, he dives right in. As bubbles erupt around him, Dennis is struck by a shocking realization. He can breathe perfectly beneath the surface. Overjoyed by his new ability, Dennis listens as Marlene explains the potion's secret. Rare air flowers that treat water like solid ground. These flowers only bloom on treacherous mountain peaks, making them incredibly rare. It turns out Gio was the one who provided them. This revelation sparks curiosity about how Gio acquires such legendary items. Sensing the tension, Marlene quietly retreats. Panicked, Dennis attempts to dispose of the used potion water before anyone notices. However, Marlene intervenes, claiming she'll preserve the water as a sacred heirloom, or even a personal treat. Dennis is rightfully horrified. Suddenly, Sifa bursts into the shop, calling for the pair, sending them both into a state of pure shock. In a desperate panic, Dennis dumps the water just as she arrives, letting out a soul-crushing scream of despair. Marlene begins to weep in silence, while a relieved Dennis greets Sifa with the most forced smile imaginable. Sina asks if something's wrong, but Dennis plays it cool and pretends nothing happened. She then mentions she's getting ready for her next big adventure. Desperate to change the subject, Dennis flashes a smile and notes that Marlene just finished a new potion, all while Marlene continues to sob quietly in the background. A wolf approaches the house with an eerie calm, sniffing the air as it draws closer. Gio smiles and calls the beast over for dinner, offering it some milk. The girl beside him excitedly asks for a serving as well, but the wolf responds with a bizarre cat-like meow. Gio serves the creature some fried fish, noting that it's the beast's absolute favorite dish. Despite being called a cat, the creature is massive and wolf-like as it eats. The girl remarks on its incredible growth, realizing she can no longer carry it, while Gio explains its diet has evolved far beyond just milk. Gio reveals that the creature hatched from a monster egg, yet it remains harmless and intensely loyal to him. Even as it grows into a powerhouse, it remains as spoiled as ever. The beast, named Milk, curls up in Gio's lap and purrs contentedly while he pets it. Eager to join in, Sina tries to pet the creature, but Milk growls fiercely and nearly bites her. Gio bluntly explains that the beast simply doesn't like her, leaving her annoyed by the unfair treatment. Gio shifts the focus to the day's adventure, urging her to finish eating quickly. She agrees enthusiastically, her mind already racing through the territories she plans to explore. Gio and Sina arrive at the entrance of a mysterious underwater zone. A dungeon lies within, but it remains entirely unexplored. Since being underwater is a massive disadvantage, Sina reveals an aquatic potion and downs it, ready to test its power. The trio plunges into the depths after consuming the potion. Instantly, they find they can breathe and move through the water with total ease. They glide calmly through the unknown abyss, ready to conquer the secrets of the underwater dungeon. The girls are stunned by the potion's godlike effects. Even deep underwater, they can breathe normally, walk effortlessly, stay completely dry, and communicate as if they were on dry land. During the exploration, their hunter instincts flare up as a presence nears. Suddenly, a colossal monster erupts from the dark depths, charging toward them at high speed. The group tracks the approaching predator, casually noting that while it's massive, it's still just a fish. Without missing a beat, one of the adventurers draws her weapon with a firm grip, bracing for the monster's imminent strike. Sina unleashes a devastatingly precise blow, cleaving the giant fish in half with a determined shout. The sheer force of the strike sends a shockwave through the water, proving her mastery of the blade is absolute. The girls marvel at Sina's lethal sword skills, noting she hasn't lost her edge. They also praise Marlene's invaluable potions, though it's soon revealed that Gio was the one who provided the rare ingredients. But deep within the sea, a sinister presence begins to stir. The group pushes forward into the uncharted territory, meticulously mapping the tunnels while Marlene excitedly tends to her pets. While navigating the deep tunnels, the group stumbles upon a breathtaking underwater vista where vast coral fields and bioluminescent fish illuminate the depths. They marvel at the exotic sea life, noting that this would be a prime tourist destination if it weren't a monster-infested dungeon. Sina remains on high alert for threats, while another girl simply wonders if the local fish would taste good. Meanwhile, back on the surface, Gio sneezes alongside his cat as the girls continue their descent. They conclude that with the right potions, this dungeon is manageable, until Sena suddenly freezes, pointing toward a terrifying sight ahead. Amidst the drifting stingrays, a colossal shadow begins to coalesce in the dark abyss. Terror strikes the group as they realize this could be the floor boss, its menacing presence suffocating the room. Back at Gio's residence, a deceptive calm hangs in the air as mysterious figures confirm they've found the right house. Gio is fast asleep, completely unaware that a group of thugs is closing in, exploiting the absence of his powerful adventurous sister to target him. The front door is shattered with a violent crash, yet Gio remains in a deep slumber until Milk, his cat, senses the impending doom. Milk frantically tugs at Gio's sleeve, forcing the drowsy boy to wake up and question the cat's sudden agitation. Hearing a disturbance, Gio assumes Sina has returned, but his instincts scream otherwise as he follows Milk into the hallway. He comes face to face with two masked intruders, his heart hammering against his ribs as he realizes he's being hunted. Without a moment's hesitation, Milk transforms into a furry blur of rage and lunges at the invaders. The men are blindsided by the cat's sheer ferocity, with one crashing to the floor in a fit of screams. Gio cries out for Milk to be careful just as an invader swings a heavy strike at the feline, but Milk's reflexes are godlike. With lethal precision, Milk slashes the intruder's face, forcing the man to recoil in absolute agony. Terrified, the thugs realize they aren't fighting a common house cat and scramble to make a desperate escape. Shaken by the chaos, Gio realizes the danger isn't over and follows Milk's lead to escape through the garden. Gio charges forward with grim determination, following Milk's lead. Armed mercenaries storm the backyard after spotting Gio, shouting for his immediate capture while the boy hides silently among the thick foliage. Watching the perimeter, Gio realizes he's inches away from being discovered by these lethal warriors. He hunkers down with Milk, fighting back a surge of fear by placing his absolute faith in his powerful allies. Just as an enemy closes in through the brush, a mysterious sprout-headed creature lunges from the shadows. The man is blindsided as the invaders realize they're being hunted by golems, monsters that shouldn't even exist in this region. One invader attempts to maintain his composure, claiming the golem threat is small and manageable. His confidence shatters instantly as dozens of golems emerge from the earth, signaling that the situation has spiraled out of control. Chaos erupts as the henchmen panic, while a commanding voice bellows over the noise, demanding to know why they haven't seized a single boy yet. Gio remains concealed with Milk, noticing a fresh presence on the battlefield while the invaders scramble to explain the sudden golem onslaught. A mysterious warrior surveys the carnage with cold intensity, his hand tightening around the hilt of his blade. He bursts from the undergrowth with surgical precision, launching a devastating sword strike that cleaves through the air with terrifying force. The warrior mocks his comrades' incompetence, expressing pure contempt that they're struggling against such pathetic opposition. Gio's heart sinks as he recognizes the man, fearing he's returned for a bloody revenge after seeing his golem obliterated in a single flash. To the henchman's horror, no matter how many golems they cut down, more continue to rise from the soil like an endless nightmare. The swordsman carves a path of destruction with ruthless fury, while Gio and Milk watch in terror at his overwhelming strength. Gio attempts to flee with Milk, but the bald warrior locks onto him with a murderous gaze, shouting that his weak golems are nothing but toys. As more golems surface, Gio darts through the garden with the bald man in hot pursuit, until the hunter suddenly freezes, sensing a massive presence. A colossal shadow looms over him as a giant golem appears, its eyes glowing with lethal intent as the man fumbles for his sword in a cold sweat. A thunderous strike shatters the very ground, sending the bald man staggering back to his knees, completely broken and bewildered by the sheer power. The man lets out a nervous laugh, convinced that this entire situation has to be some kind of sick joke. Suddenly, a massive presence approaches with a deafening crash. He drops his blade in sheer terror, staring up at a creature that blurs the line between a golem and a true nightmare. Flashing back momentarily, we see the white-haired man blitzing through the battlefield with lethal precision. He scoffs at the others, mocking their struggle against such pathetic opponents. Fueled by rage, he continues his relentless assault, still dismissing the chaos as nothing more than a farce. Nearby, the boy watches in a trembling daze, awestruck by the man's overwhelming power as he dismantles golems one after another. Realizing standard golems are useless, the boy retreats alongside his white wolf. The beast lets out a warning growl as the boy realizes they must escape immediately while the man closes in, blade drawn and ready. Desperate for a solution, a new notification flashes across the boy's interface. His eyes widen as a prompt asks if he wants to summon a Mega Guardian, the only thing standing between him and certain death. Despite never testing this ability before, the boy stands his ground with newfound determination. He triggers the Mega Guardian function, causing the very earth to buckle and warp. As a colossal structure rises from the debris, the boy's fear turns into pure excitement, and he immediately wonders if he can summon more. Multiple windows flood his vision with the same request, and he confirms them all instantly. One by one, more towering titans erupt from the ground to answer his call. The Mega Guardians fully emerge with a bone-shaking impact, their glowing eyes locked onto their target. The man who was just laughing is now completely paralyzed. He stands frozen before the sheer scale of the power before him. Even the boy is stunned by the behemoths he's created, unaware he possessed such godlike potential. The enemy can only stare in disbelief as the tide turns. From the distance, other witnesses spot the massive silhouettes towering over the midnight landscape. The man collapses to his knees, his mind fracturing as he tries to process this impossible reality. With a firm command, the boy orders his golems to eliminate the intruder, and the massive creatures charge forward with terrifying speed. The Mega Guardian snatches the man out of the air like a toy. He screams and thrashes in its grip, but his efforts are utterly futile. With brutal force, the golem slams him into the earth, the impact crushing his bones and silencing his cries. He is hammered into the dirt, letting out a final, agonized shriek as the ground shatters beneath him. He falls limp and unconscious, leaving the spectators in a state of absolute, deafening silence. The remaining henchmen flee in a blind panic, dragging their broken leader away. They scream that these monsters are unbeatable, and that they need to escape this nightmare immediately. The boy asks if the coast is clear, and the massive golem gives a silent nod. A wave of relief washes over him as his small companion purrs contentedly against his side. He expresses his gratitude to the stone giants, knowing full well he'd be finished without their protection. Resting by the water, the group reels from the revelation that the floor boss is a 100-meter-tall titan. One girl wonders if victory is even possible, while another hungrily suggests the beast might actually be a delicacy. They decide to prioritize mapping the terrain and avoiding the boss, relying on Annie's special gift to keep them safe. As they restock on potions, a lingering unease remains about how such a colossal beast could stay so hidden. With the survey finally complete, the girls prepare to head back to the surface, though they must remain on high alert. The blonde strategist notes that their next expedition will require a flawless plan to take down the area boss. Suddenly, a massive shadow looms over them as a gargantuan monster materializes out of nowhere. Panic sets in as they realize the beast bypassed every sense, including the hunter's legendary tracking abilities. Realizing the mortal danger, the hunter screams for everyone to retreat as fast as their legs can carry them. But the nightmare is far from over, as the behemoth stays glued to their heels. It unhinges its massive jaws, ready to consume everything in its path. Looking back in pure terror, the girls realize there's nowhere left to run from the gaping maw behind them. Amidst the desperate retreat, Sifa suddenly skids to a halt, catching everyone off guard. She stares down the titan with a cold gaze, claiming the massive beast isn't nearly as scary as it looks. She activates her Empress's authority to crush its stats, though the others doubt a debuff can stop something this massive. Meanwhile, another girl's eyes widen as she spots something even more significant on the horizon. While tracking the giant, she catches sight of an anomaly that defies all logic. The creature's massive frame begins to dissolve, its body disintegrating into thin air. She stares in disbelief, questioning the bizarre sight. Analyzing the scene, she realizes the giant was a fraud, just a massive swarm of tiny fish mimicking a monster. Her suspicions are finally confirmed. This explains why its presence felt so faint. Even the girl with the hunter's keen scent couldn't detect a true threat. The girls draw their weapons, ready to fight now that the illusion has been shattered. But a warning rings out. They can't drop their guard yet, as a leader must be directing this school. They remain on high alert. The blonde takes a firm stance to provide support while another girl surges forward to end this. Her hand glows with radiant power. She demands that these bottom feeders bow before her absolute might. The school scatters in a panic, and the brown-haired girl plunges directly into the chaos. With her blade drawn, she carves through the swarm with lethal precision. She strikes with blinding speed, determined to wipe them all out in a single flurry. The girls notice the enemies slowing down, realizing their companion's debuffing ability is working perfectly. One by one, they continue to thin out the ranks of the small fish. Suddenly, a larger predator emerges from the center, its piercing gaze radiating pure malice. A violent burst of energy erupts, creating a dark vacuum that startles the group, though the blonde looks on, sensing the coming storm. A swarm of fish suddenly rockets forward like living bullets, pelting them from every angle. One girl screams as she struggles to defend herself. The pressure becomes overwhelming, forcing the blonde to lose her grip on her active ability as chaos erupts. They scramble to regroup, but the swarm returns with even greater fury. The blonde raises her hand once more, desperately trying to hold the line. As the group pushes forward, the blonde notices a strange, ominous presence surging toward them. A thunderous roar echoes through the area as a shockwave of energy blasts past them, leaving the girls paralyzed with tension. Something is closing in fast. Then, out of the school of fish, a true monster finally emerges. She leaps into action, plunging her blade into the creature without a moment's hesitation, having instantly identified it as the leader. The leader fish takes the direct hit and begins to disintegrate into thin air. Deprived of their commander, the massive school instantly scatters in total disarray. leaving the girls stunned by the sudden chain reaction. As the fish vanish, the one responsible for the kill explains that the entire school's coordination relied solely on that single leader. They watch the twitching remains on the ground, confirming that this monster was indeed the one pulling the strings. One girl is baffled by how Sina pinpointed the target amidst the chaos, but Sina just laughs it off, claiming she moved purely on instinct. The group showers her with praise, wondering if this was the true area boss, noting its deceptive but formidable strength. Exhaustion finally sets in, and one girl groans that her entire body is screaming in pain. With the threat neutralized, the girls decide to head back to the guild to report their success, leaving the underwater tunnel behind. Upon reaching the guild, they are greeted by a beaming receptionist who tells Sifa her timing couldn't be more perfect. Approaching the counter, Canalia excitedly drops a bombshell, reminding them of their recent victory in the volcanic region. She reveals that a high-profile figure heard of their exploits and is demanding an audience, leaving the trio speechless. The receptionist's jaw drops when she realizes the girls have already conquered the underwater area as well. She lets out a piercing scream of pure disbelief. She demands to know how they achieved such an impossible feat in record time, admitting their talent is simply otherworldly. The receptionist warns them to prepare for a grand reception, revealing their mystery admirer is none other than the Lord of Arsul. Stunned, the girls stare toward the massive castle, finally realizing the gravity of their sudden rise to fame. Their shock intensifies when they confirm the Lord has extended a personal invitation directly to the castle. The receptionist confirms it's an official summons, a rare honor that commoners like them could only dream of. Apparently, their conquest of the volcano has already transformed the region, flooding the city with new explorers and a booming economy. The receptionist notes it's unprecedented for the Lord to summon such young adventurers, but their massive contribution earned them this honor. One girl realizes this success was only possible because of the pharmacist's miraculous potion. She also mentions that the alchemist herself, Marlene, received a summons, though her crippling social anxiety makes this a daunting prospect for everyone involved. Just as one girl attempts to reveal that her brother cultivated the legendary ingredients, another lunges forward to muffle her. They must keep Gio's garden a total secret, leaving the receptionist staring back in complete confusion. The group is ordered to report to the castle in 5 days. A perfect timeline since they plan to recover from their grueling mission in the submerged area. The other two erupt in celebration, desperate for some well-earned downtime. With their plans set, the girls bid each other farewell, agreeing to reunite in 5 days. One girl skips through the city streets, basking in her success and dreaming of the moment Gio finally pampers her. Meanwhile, Gio watches with growing dread as Milk the cat paces restlessly around the house, sensing a lingering threat. Paranoia sets in as Gio wonders if the attackers will strike again, his anxiety peaking when he realizes Senna is dangerously late. Suddenly, a sharp noise at the door sends Gio and Milk into a state of high alert. Milk lunges toward the sound while Gio's heart races, fearing the enemy has finally returned for him. To his massive relief, it's just Senna returning home safely, despite the late hour. She explains that she ran into some complications and desperately needs to collapse into bed. Milk remains on guard until Gio reassures him it's just Senna, leading the cat to cautiously sniff her before finally relaxing. When Gio confirms that a real enemy was involved in the recent chaos, Senna's eyes widen in shock. Her heart sinks as he describes the midnight ambush, nearly dropping her bowl in pure disbelief. Senna frantically checks for injuries, but Gio explains that Milk and the golems stood as his unbreakable shield. However, Gio warns that the danger hasn't passed, as they still have no idea when the next strike will land. Senna's expression turns deadly serious as she demands to know exactly who dared to target him. Gio describes the enemy leader as a tattooed brute with a deadly blade, someone the standard golems couldn't even touch. Fearing for her safety, he urges Sina to stay vigilant and lock her door, knowing the enemy might target her next. Sina just offers a calm smile over her meal, reminding him that unlike her brother, she's more than capable of handling herself. Gio tries to argue that she's still just a novice adventurer, but her unshakable composure leaves him completely speechless. Rising early, Gio heads out with Milk and the golems to fortify the garden using high-tier magical stones. He wonders if Sina is still resting, considering how much she's been pushing herself during their recent quests. As he reinforces the perimeter, Gio laments his lack of defensive options, noting that his powerful mega golems are too conspicuous for daytime use. Suddenly he gets a spark of inspiration, a teleportation system between gardens. But when he tries to trigger it, the system denies him access. Frustrated but determined, he continues testing other portal functions alongside Milk and his golem. That's when Gio stumbles upon a secret ability, the traveling garden. A prompt appears, asking if he wants to engage travel mode. He accepts, though slightly bewildered, and the moment it's activated, the very earth begins to violently quake. The sudden upheaval terrifies Geo, Milk, and the golem as the ground continues to tremble beneath them. Panic sets in when he notices the neighbor's house sinking out of view. The entire landscape is shifting before his very eyes. He rushes back to find the entire estate rattling as if a massive transformation is about to occur. Horror strikes as Geo realizes he's fundamentally altered the garden, causing the entire house to slide with a thunderous crash. In a desperate panic, he screams for the system to revert everything back to the way it was. The house snaps back into place, leaving Geo drenched in a cold sweat while confused neighbors shout in the distance. He realizes this flashy ability is far too dangerous to use for a stealthy escape. Geo starts to think these new powers are more trouble than they're worth, until he looks at the fields and realizes he could cultivate something legendary. Filled with newfound hope, he pulls up the list of growable plants. But his excitement dies instantly when he sees nothing but common herbs and flowers, causing him to collapse in pure disappointment. Geo feels dejected, seeing no combat value in the plants he cultivates. As the golem and the cat observe him, Milk approaches to gently lick his hand. Geo calls out to his companions, and the golem follows eagerly, letting out an excited chirp as if it's all a game. Realizing they're trying to comfort him, Geo accepts the golem's gentle pat on the shoulder. He offers a sincere bow of gratitude, thanking them for their support. Refusing to let fear paralyze him, Geo clenches his fists and takes a steadying breath. His resolve hardens as he vows to protect Sina. We then see Sina resting peacefully among the flora while Geo keeps a watchful eye over her. Geo realizes it's finally time for Sina to wake up. He heads upstairs only to find her bedroom door wide open. A shocking sight, given he specifically told her to keep it locked. He calls her name as he enters, but the room is eerily silent. Confusion turns to dread as Sina fails to respond, leaving the room completely vacant. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the city, a humiliated bald man seethes with rage, swearing vengeance. Back at the house, Geo realizes the worst has happened and strikes the wall in a fit of fury. The bald thug stalks through an alley, haunted by the voices mocking his defeat by a mere boy. He fumes, knowing they'd sing a different tune if they'd seen those massive golems. Stripped of his rank and betrayed by his own men, his hatred peaks. He decides that Geo knows too much and must be erased from existence. He begins staking out Geo's home from a distance. Suddenly he spots Sina passing by. Recalling that the boy lives with his adventurous sister, a sadistic plan begins to take shape. He'll use the girl as bait to lure Geo into a trap, his face twisting into a malicious grin. Sina walks through a deserted alley, completely unaware that the man is closing in from behind. He sees his opening and calls out to her. The man attempts to intimidate the girl with a lethal threat. However, she immediately recognizes exactly who he is. Her suspicions are confirmed as the atmosphere turns icy. She glares at the aggressor, demanding to know if he's the one who attacked her brother. The man believes he can easily dominate her now that his identity is revealed. But she responds with a chilling, mocking smile. She flatly refuses to obey, leaving him both irritated and completely bewildered by her defiance. He draws his sword in a desperate attempt to intimidate her, barking that she doesn't know her place, yet she remains entirely unshaken. She calmly retorts that he is the one who should be terrified of his current predicament. The moment he lunges, she vanishes into thin air. Shock paralyzes him as his sword clatters to the ground and cold sweat pours down his face. He screams in pure agony, unable to comprehend the carnage. He stares at his mangled, bleeding arm, struggling just to stay on his feet. Meanwhile, the girl strolls away with total composure, declaring that his suffering is the price for endangering her brother. Her gaze is lethal as she deems his actions unforgivable. She makes it clear that as long as he draws breath, he will never know peace. The man is consumed by raw terror, drenched in a cold, paralyzing sweat. He pathetically begs for mercy while scrambling backward on the ground. As she closes in, the crushing realization hits. There is no escape. She towers over him with her blade drawn, looking down with cold authority while mockingly addressing him as Mr. With a final, wrathful warning, she tells him to never approach her brother again. Terrified, he realizes he made a fatal mistake targeting these siblings. Her brother rushes over in a panic, asking where she's been. She simply offers a calm reply, claiming she just went for a walk. But when she mentions her encounter with the bald man, the boy is horrified, knowing how lethal that man truly is. Sina beams and reassures him, claiming the man promised to never show his face again. The boy is left speechless, wondering how that's even possible. He is overwhelmed with relief to see her unharmed, though his mind is racing with questions. As she walks away, he begins to wonder. Did the man simply have a change of heart? Or is Sina hiding a monstrous level of power? Sina declares that the danger has passed and that she's ready to crash for a long nap. Her brother smiles and pats her head affectionately, thanking her while warning her not to push herself too far. While strolling outside, Sina claims everything is fine because he is both kind and weak. Her brother is stunned, but she just offers a teasing smile. Sina is lost in a deep slumber. Suddenly, her brother jolts her awake, shouting her name while a massive cat pins her down. He reminds her of her schedule, but a groggy Sina insists she's retired from adventuring. Memory strikes like lightning, and she races toward an imposing manor with her crew. They're ecstatic to finally meet the legendary Lord of Arsel. Stepping inside the castle, the girls are immediately floored by the sheer scale and opulence. The corridors are massive and gleaming, adorned with vibrant flowers and breathtaking architecture. They walk in awe toward their destination. While some are gripped by nerves, others are dying to know what kind of leader has ruled for the last few years. One girl feels a sudden sense of dread, while another prepares a crucial request for the Lord. One of the girls is visibly miserable, muttering about wanting to go home. She's bitter that her companion, Dennis, wasn't invited despite his contributions. She breaks down into tears, claiming Dennis is her emotional rock. But the group ignores her as they enter a massive hall. The butler announces their arrival to the master. The doors swing open to reveal a stunning, elegant woman. With a serene smile, she introduces herself as Lord Elizabeth Arsal. The girls are absolutely mesmerized by Elizabeth's radiant beauty. Sina blurts out a loud comment and gets instantly hushed. Meanwhile, another girl stares at the Lord, certain they've met before, though Elizabeth initially claims not to remember. Suddenly, Elizabeth pivots, confirming she did indeed see Sifa just a few days ago. The group is stunned, especially Sifa, as the Lord approaches her to praise her exceptional skills as a pharmacist. Reality hits them like a truck. Lord Elizabeth is actually the adventurer, Eliza. They had crossed paths deep within the dungeon. Sina loses her mind, screaming in confusion at how this elegant noble could be that mysterious warrior. Elizabeth just chuckles, explaining that she adventures in secret to keep her body from getting weak. The girls assume she reached rank B with the help of the castle knights, but she quickly shuts that theory down. She reveals that she ran away from home as a girl to travel the world, earning her rank B status through pure, unadulterated grit. Elizabeth reveals her adventuring days were cut short when her brother's death forced her to claim the title of Lord. She quickly catches herself, apologizing for the sudden trip down memory lane. She explains that the invitation is a formal thank you for their dungeon exploits, which have sparked a massive economic boom in her territory. The girls beam with pride as Elizabeth showers them with praise for conquering the underwater ruins. Eager for the details, she claps her hands and calls for lunch to be served. Moments later, a magnificent feast is unveiled, leaving the group speechless. The sheer scale and presentation of the food send the girls into a frenzy of excitement. Enchanted by the royal cuisine, the group stares in awe, while Sina literally begins drooling until her friend snaps her out of it. Elizabeth just laughs, telling them to make themselves at home. She assures them the chefs poured their souls into every dish and invites them to feast until they're full. With a loud cheer, the girls dive into the banquet. One girl marvels at the massive, perfectly cooked cuts of meat. As they take their first bites, the flavor is so intense they practically melt into their seats. The meat is incredibly juicy, leaving Elizabeth smiling at their chaotic energy. Another girl samples the soup and is instantly captivated by its rich aroma and flawless seasoning. Upon tasting the fish, one of the girls realizes this is top-tier luxury market quality. The familiar flavor triggers a sudden memory. Another girl picks up on the incredible freshness, sensing a flavor profile that feels strangely close to home. A flash of suspicion crosses one of their faces, but she masks it behind a smile as Elizabeth checks to see if everything is to their liking. The hostess reveals her secret. She sources these elite ingredients from a merchant named Poppet. The realization hits them like a truck. This food likely came from Gio's own plantations. Suddenly, the unparalleled quality of the feast makes perfect sense. One girl silently confirms the taste of her brother's hard work, wishing he could receive this royal recognition. Meanwhile, another slips into a melancholy mood, whispering about how much she misses Dennis. Once the incredible feast finally comes to an end, the Lord asks if they've had their fill. The girls offer their grateful thanks as the servants begin clearing the table. Elizabeth shifts the tone, smiling as she announces her intention to reward them for their heroic service. The girls are stunned. They weren't expecting a bonus. Just then, a butler interrupts to announce the arrival of Lirucaleria. The girls' eyes widen at the name, confirming they know the merchant well, much to the Lord's surprise. The Lord grants her entry, and Lirucaleria steps into the hall, ready to speak with the territory's ruler. Lirucaleria bows deeply before the Lord. She offers her heartfelt thanks for saving her father's workshop. The Lord is stunned by this sudden display of respect as Liru explains how a previous order for mithril weapons saved her family's livelihood. The Lord is shocked to learn those elite weapons were crafted by Liru's own father. She admits the quality was flawless, and she couldn't be more satisfied with the craftsmanship. Liru reveals she only acted as the intermediary for the deal. The Lord enthusiastically notes how she secured the mithril at a bargain price, unaware that Liru herself was the actual supplier. Right then, the mysterious benefactor steps into the light. She greets the room with a bright, cheerful smile. Liru confirms she provided the raw mithril herself. The Lord is floored, realizing she had no idea Sifa's family forged the blades, and even more shocked that Liru asked for nothing in return. The group points out how she's always shrouded in secrets. Liru simply offers a playful shh, while Sifa begins to connect the dots, her suspicions growing by the second. The group is left speechless, wondering if Gio's magical garden can actually sprout mithril from the dirt. Liru casually claims she only showed up because the girls were invited, but the Lord senses a deeper motive behind her visit. When the Lord asks what reward they desire, the girls are stumped. Liru seizes the moment, insisting she has the perfect suggestion for them to consider. Liru whispers her secret plan to the girls, leaving the Lord wary of her schemes. Meanwhile, the dark-haired girl slumps in disappointment, feeling completely excluded. The girls immediately love the proposal, their excitement reaching a fever pitch. Stepping forward with absolute resolve, the girls announce their final decision. The Lord leans in, desperate to hear what they've chosen. Back at home, Gio prepares a feast for himself and his massive cat. He stares at the plate, marveling at the exotic meal while wondering what kind of delicacies are being served at the royal castle. Gio digs in with gusto, savoring every bite of the simple yet delicious meal. He can't help but think about how lucky the others are to be royal guests. He knows Senna only tagged along by pure luck, but he fears Sifa is drifting away from him, especially after her promotion to rank B. Gio heads back to the garden with his feline companion to inspect his latest harvest. Suddenly, his little sister bursts onto the scene, shouting her arrival. Gio is stunned to see her return so ahead of schedule. Hearing familiar voices, Gio realizes Laruka and Annie have arrived. He quickly orders Milp to hide, keeping the giant cat's existence a total secret as the girls approach the house. Gio is caught off guard as Sifa and the girls arrive at his doorstep unannounced, offering a quick apology for the surprise visit. He immediately questions if they were also summoned to the castle, desperate to know what's going on. Gio's jaw drops when he discovers the girls were actually granted a massive plot of land as a reward. His shock intensifies as they reveal their plan to gift that very land to him. Even though it's a desolate wasteland, their sheer generosity leaves him speechless. Gio is floored to learn this request was specifically tailored for his needs. Spearheaded by Liru, the group wants him to use the space to expand his garden, leaving Gio wondering why they didn't choose something for themselves. The girls explain that this is their ultimate thank you for his heroics. He didn't just survive the adventure, he saved their businesses and families, and they refuse to let his deeds go unrewarded despite his modesty. Before he can downplay his role any further, one of the girls cuts him off, demanding his full attention to make their intentions crystal clear. Liru firmly states that while his garden must remain a secret, his achievements deserve a grand reward. Annie chimes in, insisting he accept their gift as a token of their care without another word of protest. With a warm smile, Liru acknowledges the brilliance of his hidden garden. Overwhelmed by their recognition, Gio is visibly moved to silence. Gio finally breaks into a genuine smile, admitting that nothing could make him happier than to accept their incredible gift. The girls watch him with soft, satisfied expressions, happy to see their plan succeeded. Gio is suddenly energized, realizing he can put this land to legendary use. He knows that as his level increases, his garden's reach expands, making this extra space a game changer. Out of nowhere, the cat manifests with a sudden pop, demanding everyone's attention with a sharp meow. Gio panics instantly, having told the creature to stay hidden. One of the girls shrieks in terror, mistaking the beast for a snow leopard or a high-level monster. The girls stand frozen in shock, baffled as to why such a creature would be lounging in Gio's home. In a desperate bid to de-escalate the chaos, Gio explains that the massive creature is actually his pet, Milk. The beast rubs against him affectionately, proving to the startled group that it's completely tame. Despite its friendly nature, the girls remain skeptical. It's far too massive to be a normal cat, and they demand to know where it truly came from. With a confident grin, Gio reveals the truth. He can hatch monster eggs using the power of his special garden. The revelation leaves the group absolutely stunned. As they walk along the walls, the group discusses Gio's terrifying potential. They worry that the power to mass-produce monsters is a double-edged sword that could become incredibly dangerous. Another ally tries to de-escalate, insisting Gio would never misuse his power, but they still urge him to keep the garden a total secret. The group soon discovers that the land granted by the Lord sits far outside the city walls. It's a massive territory crawling with monsters, yet they feel safe with their escort and thank the Lord for his supposed generosity. Geo practically vibrates with excitement as they march toward his new domain, dying to see what kind of land he's been promised. Finally, the party arrives at their destination. Their curiosity turns to dread as they find a gloomy wasteland choked with rotting trees, leaving the girls completely baffled. Getting closer, they realize the territory is actually a disgusting swamp, and their disappointment is immeasurable. We flash back to when a woman first offered him the land, marking the moment this deal was struck. She had listed the requirements: spacious, unoccupied, and unused. And while they accepted then, they're definitely regretting it now. Upon closer inspection, Geo realizes this isn't just a swamp, it's a monster-infested death trap teeming with hostile creatures. The girls point out that planting anything here is impossible while monsters rule the area, and even Geo begins to doubt his plan. Despite the grim surroundings, Geo triggers his ability and designates the garden, causing the entire landscape to erupt in a blinding glow. He flashes a confident grin as the girls watch in absolute shock while the swamp undergoes a radical transformation. In mere seconds, the wasteland becomes a lush, gargantuan garden, leaving both the girls and the local monsters utterly stunned. Checking his stats, Geo sees he's already claimed 200,000 units of land, yet there's still plenty of room to expand. He wonders how he'll ever fill this massive space, silently thanking the girls for helping him secure this dream. Suddenly, Geo gets a spark of inspiration and starts talking to thin air, leaving his companions wondering if he's finally lost his mind. The peace is short-lived as a horde of monsters begins charging directly at the group. Fearing the beasts are out for revenge, the girls jump into a defensive stance, but Geo calmly tells them to stand down. With total composure, he activates Mega Guardian Creation, summoning a colossal beast that towers over the battlefield. Terror grips the girls as they demand to know the identity of that monstrous creature. A composed Geo explains that since the garden is vast, he'll summon even more guardians to effortlessly purge every monster in sight. While the girls watch in absolute shock, Geo prepares his next move. He triggers his defensive wall generator, erecting a massive fortification to repel any would-be invaders. To ensure total privacy, he activates Hide Garden, shrouding the area in a magical barrier while pondering the potential of his new garden travel skill. With a casual wave, Geo activates the ability and vanishes into thin air before their very eyes. The girls stand frozen, completely unable to process the impossible feat they just witnessed. Annie struggles to wrap her head around the situation, her mind reeling from the sheer absurdity of it all. Far away, Geo materializes in a radiant glow, confirming that his interdimensional travel works perfectly. Overjoyed to be back in one of his old gardens, he decides to raid his stash and bring back a feast for the new land. Suddenly, his massive cat appears, demanding his usual serving of milk. Treating the situation like a walk in the park, Geo scoops up the cat, fittingly named Milk, and teleports back with the supplies. Geo reappears in a flash, leaving the group stunned by his godlike speed. They notice the cat has grown exponentially, and Geo remarks that the feline now has a massive playground to roam. He breaks down his instantaneous travel ability, leaving the girls floored by its sheer utility. Meanwhile, the golems finish their work, securing the land and allowing Geo to move on to the next phase. In high spirits, Geo suggests a celebration and reveals a massive spread of premium barbecue ingredients. The group gathers around the grill as the meat sizzles, enjoying a moment of pure bliss under the open sky. But in the middle of the feast, one of the girls spots something incredible on the horizon. They turn to see an entire hillside erupting in a vibrant explosion of blooming flowers, leaving everyone breathless. The girls are mesmerized by the blossoming field and ask if Geo created this masterpiece. With a humble smile, he confirms it's his way of showing gratitude for their support. The gesture moves everyone to their core, struck by his kindness. One girl, overwhelmed with emotion, thanks him for this breathtaking landscape. The compliment makes him flush with embarrassment. Suddenly, Milk lets out a piercing meow from the center of the flowers, catching Geo completely off guard. Geo dashes through the petals with a grin, crediting their collective effort for this massive garden. The girls watch him play, as he playfully warns everyone to watch their step. To keep things simple, Geo decides on some basic names: the first garden and the second garden. Before the real work begins, he plucks a few choice flowers and hands them to Laruka, leaving her absolutely radiant. Geo eyes the massive pile of monsters his golems slaughtered. Since swamp beasts yield such pathetic loot, he wonders if they're even worth the effort to process. Just then, a mysterious system prompt appears, asking if he wishes to absorb the monsters. Intrigued and slightly confused, Geo decides to put this new absorption feature to the test. The moment he accepts, the corpses vanish into thin air. Not only is the area cleared, but the garden's level surges, unlocking brand new crops to cultivate. He realizes the system is feeding on the mana stones within the monsters. This is a game changer. The more beasts he slays, the more his garden evolves. Suddenly, a brilliant flash of inspiration hits Geo. He immediately puts his plan into motion, releasing a swarm of flying insects from the garden, though he quickly realizes he might have overdone it. Geo reveals his secret weapon, monster-attracting incense he secured from Marlene's pharmacy. He recalls that Marlene seemed a bit shaken after her trip to the castle, yet she still came through with the items. Geo throws open the garden walls, setting the stage for his master plan. With the incense burning and the path clear, he declares that the hunt is officially on. As the monsters swarm in, Geo gives the command. His golem roars into action, charging the beasts with overwhelming force. It's a total slaughter as the golem obliterates the monsters with ease. Once the dust settles, Geo triggers the absorption command once more. He celebrates as the process works perfectly, watching his garden's level skyrocket yet again. There's zero time for a breather. Another beast approaches, but Geo already has a master plan in motion. He reveals his strategy, using incense to lure the monsters straight into the golem's path for a total slaughter. Once the golem crushes them, the garden absorbs their corpses to harvest massive amounts of experience. Geo realizes he's just invented an AFK leveling farm. He no longer needs Sinna to fetch magic stones. The garden can now evolve entirely on its own. He watches in awe as the golem obliterates wave after wave. His gift is becoming terrifyingly efficient, and he wonders just how many more will come. A few days pass, shifting the view to the west of Arcel. The landscape looks peaceful, with the garden looming in the distance. Just outside the city lies a dense, suffocating woodland. This is the Forest of Death, a hellscape infested with lethal monsters. Near the tree line, a group of weary adventurers huddles around a campfire. One suggests pushing deeper, but the blonde leader demands caution, choosing to wait and see how the situation develops. As the forest begins to tremble, they realize the danger is real. The deeper you go, the thicker the mana becomes, and the more monstrous the inhabitants. Sudden, violent noises erupt from the trees as shadows begin to stir. Horned beasts and glowing eyes emerge from the darkness, restless and hungry. The sound of heavy footsteps and snapping timber fills the air. Something massive is about to break loose. The camping party senses the shift. The Beastkin girl catches a sound on the wind, and soon, the earth itself begins to vibrate. It's not an earthquake, it's something far worse. A rhythmic thumping grows louder by the second. A massive horde is sprinting toward them. Suddenly, a sea of horned monsters bursts from the tree line, pulverizing everything in their path. It's a full-scale stampede. Scrambling to high ground, the group watches in horror as an endless tide of creatures surges forward, the ground shaking beneath their sheer weight. One man checks the map and pales. If this horde stays on course, they'll hit populated areas. He immediately orders a rider to gallop ahead and sound the alarm. As the monsters charge ahead, the realization hits. The city of Arcel is directly in the path of this devastation. Elsewhere, a woman sighs over a mountain of paperwork. She's buried in administrative duties, completely unaware of the chaos heading her way. While she drowns in a sea of paperwork, an aide piles on even more documents. They discuss Arcel's explosive growth and the surge in new contracts. But her heart yearns for the thrill of the dungeon. Suddenly, the man shifts the mood with an urgent report. She immediately presses him for news on the swamp case. Shock hits her as he reveals the entire region has been transformed into a complete wasteland. He explains that every trace of life and vegetation has vanished, and an impenetrable, invisible barrier now blocks all entry. Deep in thought, she struggles to comprehend the situation, as reports suggest a high-level magic barrier has been erected over the area. Bewildered, she can't believe such a complex feat was achieved so quickly. She chose that isolated location specifically to test the girls in secret. Now she's left wondering what kind of madness is unfolding within.